Calm down. We'll call the meeting to order tonight for the City of Saratoga Springs, Tuesday, October 7th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Present tonight, we have Councilman Wadman, Councilman Wilden, Councilman McComber, and Councilwoman Barton. Councilman Karn has been excused. We do have a quorum. We ask that Councilman Wadman would lead us in our prayer, and then our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by one of our soon-to-be sworn-in officers, Sadie Dial.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful for the opportunity to be here as a council, as citizens, as staff. Dear Father, we are grateful for this great place that we call home, for the beauty of the mountains and the water and the weather that we've received, the moisture we've received recently. We thank Thee for those that defend the city, that protect us from the elements, and those that build the city and support it. We truly are grateful for their dedication and their service. We ask Thee at this time, our Father in heaven, that we can conduct ourselves in harmony with peace and tranquility as we discuss important things about the city and about our community. We thank Thee once again for those that are here tonight to participate in this great practice that we call the American dream and the American experiment. And we thank Thee for this in the name of Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on our agenda tonight, we have the introduction of the Youth Council and oath of office.
Council members and mayor, I want to introduce you to our awesome 25-26 youth council. We have 30 that signed up to be in the youth council this year. They are not all here, but if I miss your name, which inevitably every year I miss someone, please stand up and say your name. But as I read your name, will you please stand up, and then we're going to have everyone come up here and we'll take a picture. Okay. Anastasia Estiju, Aspen Stockwell, Audrey Cole, Audrina Wolfenden, sorry about that, Avery Weiner, Bennett Parker, Bryn Sowers, Brooklyn Hawks, Claire Daniels, Claire Stoddard, Daphne Palfreyman, Disney Lincoln, Emery Sowers, Emma Alvarenga, Maya Parker, Mila Alvarenga, Red Goodman, Sadie Dial, Sarah Cloward, Tommy Dial, Trey Butters, and Zach Wood. Did I miss anyone? Okay, great. I invite you all to come up here. We're going to take a picture, and then you'll take your oath of office. Please make sure you can see me.
Fill it on that side too, spread out.
Yeah, come over this way, guys, and then scoot.
Make sure we fill on this side too.
If we can't see you, or if you can't see us, we can't see you. So here, and
Sarah's very tall. Sarah, go back by Avery.
there we go.
Okay, Mayor, you guys stay there, and we'll turn it over to the mayor.
We'll do the oath of office. So if you will please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Thank you.
Okay, youth council members, if you help the fall festival, there's a thank you on your way out. And you don't have to stay, but you are welcome to stay. Board members will be joining on the date.
Okay, so those that are the mayor, mayor pro tem, secretary, timer, and volunteer coordinator, if you want to join us on the dais.
Who's the mayor? Raise your hand. Awesome.
So if you want to sit here.
The other council member just choose a spot.
So we appreciate those that are on the agenda tonight. This is probably one of the favorite things we get to do as a council. We get to have the youth council. They learn about city government, they learn about what's going on. And then for this one meeting, we invite them up and we have them run the meeting for that. So we will turn it over to the youth council to work with us to run the meeting here through the policy session.
Whole thing? Yep. Okay. Public input. Time for public input is limited to no more than 15 minutes total. This time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed as public hearing on the agenda.
So if you're here for public input, if you would please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please limit individual comments to 3 minutes. And as she said, there's a total of 15 minutes set aside. Is anybody here for public input?
Hello, my name is Carly Bradford, and I am here to discuss Evans Lane, which is a continuation of 400 North past Mountain View Corridor. This summer, the intersection at Mountain View Corridor and 400 North and Evans Lane was completed, and as a driver, it has been a dream. Great work was done, and we all appreciate how convenient it is to navigate. However, as a pedestrian, it has become a lot more precarious with the changes and increased traffic. Children in the neighborhoods west of Mountain View who attend Thunder Ridge Elementary, Lakeview Academy, and Vista Heights Middle School take this road to and from school each day. There's no sidewalk for them to travel safely to school. They're on foot, scooters, and bikes and have very little room on the sides of the road to navigate. There is also no speed limit sign on this stretch of road, and cars often fly down this road much faster than the residential 25 miles per hour. School children are not the only ones that frequent this road. Pedestrians and runners can be seen on it various times of the day, and it is unsafe for all. Sidewalks are costly, and we understand that the property on either side of this road is private property, and it's not solely up to the city to make those decisions. Also, future road plans may negate the need for one. However, this is a serious safety concern. I would like to see what can be done to improve the safety of Evans Lane in order to avoid injury to person or property.
It's not a time for dialogue.
Okay.
Take your notes, and staff, if you can look into that.
How can I follow up?
Did you check in on the back?
Okay, I did.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public input? If you want to close it.
We are closing public input.
Reports, ask the council if they have any reports.
And now we're going to move to reports. Does the council have any reports? Councilman McComber.
Hi, yes, thank you. I just had a question, because I know we don't go over the department reports. A couple things. I just really was impressed with the amount of recreation that we had in this last update. Just so impressive to see how much growth, so many cool new programs, how we expanded so many of our programs. It's just amazing. And then again, just reminding how much we benefit from the city of Saratoga Springs because of our volunteers. Our library, which was another report, I do have a question there, but our library started with volunteers. We didn't even have a full paid librarian when we first started, and now we're building this most amazing library that will be opening the end of this year, early next year. And it's just so exciting to see that, and it's built on the back of volunteers. And Councilwoman Barton and I have talked about how much our volunteers mean to us and how much we value them, and we've had this conversation. And I just wanted to point out that over 5,000 volunteer hours in recreation alone. That's a lot of taxpayer money that we don't have to pay for. And it has also having people be involved in our youth programs and other programs, coaching, et cetera. So I just really do appreciate all the volunteers in our community. The library one, I did have one quick question, and I might not be able to get it here today because I don't believe the library is here. But I was looking at the, sorry, I got to pull it up here again. Oh, I'm just wondering if there was a discrepancy in the numbers or whatever at any point or any case, but we had almost 100,000 visitors, and then in 2024, our population grew still substantially, but we saw almost a 4,000 people drop, and then now in 2025, we're over 100,000 visitors. So I just was curious what maybe caused that. Our circulation was still trending normal, but that rare dip, and I just want to make sure that our numbers there are accurate. And then also, there's quite a bit drop in the number of programs, and I'm wondering if that's just because that's year to date, and if that's still whatever programming be through the end of the year. Because we have a drop to almost 645 number of programs versus 720 last year.
Yeah, typically 2025 numbers are year-to-date when it comes to that, but also there have been space restrictions, so some of the programs we haven't been able to continue, or we've determined that they aren't. I'll follow up with Melissa and get you more detailed on that, but.
I mean, I
it's
get that
likely
we've
the
had a
program-
space
Yeah,
issue,
the
but we've had a
programs-
space issue for years. So.
Yeah, programming 654 is probably what we've done so far this year. As for the visitors, most likely that's our gate count, so that is physically people coming in and out of the gate. So we've had more people this year than last year. And
We just had a drop though, which was rare because every year, other than COVID stuff, that was an obviously anomaly, but we've had an increase every year. So I just wanted to make sure. But in the future, on any report, if it's a year to date, if we can just, because these go out to the public and they're made known to the public, and I just want to make sure that we have
Okay.
that note that it's year to date whenever that is the case. But please let the library know, just amazed how many programs, how many amazing things. I just can't wait to see what they do when they have so much more space and more collections. I think we've ordered, how many more collections? Three additional collections, I think, to fill the new library.
There's 3 vendors, but it's how many items? 60-something thousand items additional.
Like additional 60,000.
So we'll have a total of, I think, around 80,000.
80,000 books and things. That's just amazing to me, like, because, Mayor, do you remember when we were in the basement of Bank of American Fork? And we did the QR codes, and we put the plastic on the books. And it was all done through donations. People just in the community donated their books, and we did it in the basement of Alta Bank now. And it's just amazing to think that we're going to have 80,000 books, so.
Mayor, if I could, I just want to comment and piggyback on that. Thank you very much, Councilman Comber. We're very excited about that. In preparation for that, we will be shutting down the library right around Thanksgiving time, and we've made that public, and then we will be closed, and we anticipate the ribbon cutting for that to be the 5th of January, I believe, is what we're tentatively looking for. But it's very exciting, but essentially we're going to go from around 30,000 collection to that 80,000 number. Melissa will give you more specific details, but it's pretty spectacular, and we appreciate the council's support.
And didn't they say that people can check out extra books if they want to?
Yes.
So if you want to get your books for the holidays, they're not going to have any limits because that's less books that they have to move from one library to the other. You can be the mule. So spread the word, go on your Facebook pages, make sure your neighborhoods know that. Feel free to check out as many books mid-November before Thanksgiving and help us out. Again, almost do it think of it as a service, and then you'll also have books through the holidays. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Barton?
Jeremy, actually, this is just a question for you. I'm just wondering about an update on the light by Vista Heights. Do we have like a little info on that? There's lots of asks, so.
I have a request from the contractor. As we discussed before, there was a delay in the materials and they were unable to get it done before school started. I will let you know as soon as I hear back from them.
Great.
So I've let them know that we're urgently awaiting the update, but
Perfect.
it is a material issue.
Well, you knew that. I just wasn't sure if you'd gotten another update or not.
I haven't heard back from them yet.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy.
Oh, administration, sorry. Mark, do you have anything?
No, we do have need for a closed session tonight, and then we will be obviously talking tonight with our work session. We have a work session item so we're prepared and ready for that discussion. Oh, if I could, and I apologize, a couple meetings ago, we had a resident ask some specific questions. During that meeting, Owen actually went out and met with the resident, followed up with them, answered their questions, and I believe there was some additional communication. But from a follow-up standpoint, we believe that we've addressed the question at this point, based on what you'd asked us to do, is to report back on that item.
Thank you.
Councilman McComber?
Sorry, I had one other item. As a report, we don't go back and forth when people come in public input, but I do want to point out that the safe walking routes is a responsibility of the schools. And so I appreciate you being here. I would encourage you to also go to the school board, and that's most likely what we'll end up doing is reaching out to them because they should be busing the kids if they can't provide a safe walking route. And the side of a road is not a safe walking route. So I think it's just probably got missed because the intersection opening the way it did, sort of last minute, very quick. And we've spent so much time and energy on the sidewalk along Mountain View corridor, which was a huge safety concern, obviously, thousands of kids walking that. And I know that that neighborhood is continuing to grow, so many more houses up Evans Lane. So, but that safe walking route is a requirement. So that's something that we will be following up with, and they'll follow up with you as well.
And then do we have a report on the Transit Fresh Look study presentation from MAG?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having us tonight. So just to begin, I'd like to introduce myself and the team that is here as well. I'm Kendall Willardson. I'm a transportation planner with the Mountain Land Association of Governments, also known as MAG, the transportation planning group that works throughout Utah County on our roadways, transit, and trails. Also, we have in the room today Trustee Acerson from UTA, as well as our planner, Jeff Lewis from UDOT Region 3. So very grateful for them. If there's any more difficult questions, they'll be right there to help me out. So I'm happy to. And Lanice, yes. And of course, our MPO director, Lanice Davenport. Thanks. I just wanted to mention in that prayer earlier today, Saratoga Springs is very beautiful. I just recently was on the Jordan River Trail portion coming down, and I hadn't ever done it before. Very, very pretty just along here. And I think with that, that's what we kind of want to focus with the Transit Fresh Look is the values of our residents and how we can best not only move people, but improve quality of life. See. Is it on? Do I need to turn it on? Yep. Okay. All right. Let me test that. Now we're good to go. Okay. So really, let's just, a quick refresh, as a reminder, the Fresh Look, Transit Fresh Look study seeks to align us to a broader vision for Northwest Utah County and southwest Salt Lake County. The study focuses primarily on high-capacity transit, so that's BRT, bus rapid transit, such as the UVX down in Provo, and light rail, which is like our tracks up in Salt Lake County. But through the whole process, we have considered local routes as well, just with the main focus on the higher capacity and what the future is in store for our communities. We as agencies and stakeholders wanted to take a fresh look, hence the name. And we want to recognize that there are the other transit studies, as we've mentioned in the past. And really, the hope with this study is to look really what does it take to accomplish the vision and have this study be the final version of its kind. We've had great participation throughout the whole process, and this includes the communities I'm showing up on the screens, Saratoga down here, Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, Lehigh, and along with state legislatures, Utah County Commissioners, the Alpine School District, and private developers that are building communities throughout the Wasatch Front. As I mentioned, we also have here UTA and UDOT and the Wasatch Front Regional Council, which does transportation planning up in Salt Lake County, have been really great partners, and we valued all the input and feedback from that. Now, as far as our representatives from your community is concerned, these are the primary people we've been working with, and we're grateful for what they've been able to contribute, including Mayor Miller, as well as City Manager Mark Christensen, Assistant City Manager Owen Jackson, our Senior Planner Tippy Moreland, and also Senior Planner Austin Roy. So if you ever have, some of them are here in this room today. If there are any questions specifically to me, but also as to UTA, UDOT, as well as any of our representatives, they are here as well today. And if you ever have any concerns or would like to discuss more about it, I'm sure they'd be happy to help out as well. So to date, this is what we've accomplished. Primarily, we've started broadly with ideas and analyzing your land use, which you have all provided, which we're grateful for. And then we went into developing vision scenarios with refined land use, as well as looking at different data points, such as travel time, as well as costing, right-of-way, some initial, I should preface by saying initial costing right-of-way analysis. And we just are at the now final steps of completing our final vision and plan. And really what we wanted to share with you today briefly is some of those alignment, the vision scenario, with the preface as well that we just recently met as a group last Monday, September 29th, to further refine. So as I show the maps, I will point out where some differences are. And then we'll, of course, update you all with a final vision map. So to that point, we have vision scenario 1 to start off. There's two scenarios, 1 and 2. The primary difference, as you see me going back and forth, is really just up in South Salt Lake County, which is the Bangerter and Porter Rockwell. The idea, the vision there is to connect the red line into the point, either from that alignment or the other. And I will say that is something that we're finalizing with the with the ideal vision being a mixture of the two. So more into the Utah County specific portion. We'll start off here with Redwood Road. This was one of the ideas that came out along with Mountain View Corridor. There's a preference with Mountain View Corridor to be the high capacity transit, with the potential of Redwood Road being more of local transit. And I could stare at these and analyze them for hours, but if I go too fast, just let me know. But for brevity's sake, I'm gonna flip through these. Another one that comes through here is 2100 North. This connects either into the Mountain View or Redwood corridor and essentially acts as a connector from the high capacity, from the north-south to connect to Front Runner in the Lehigh station. envisioned as a BRT line. Finally, this is the west, east-west connections. So we're calling it Utah County Connector at this point, of course. As time goes on, that can change. But really, it's something that we're still studying and will most likely, as we're going into additional studies with UDOT and such, that will look at which is preferred, Pony Express versus Pioneer Crossing. And with the goal of eventually getting into Eagle Mountain, which, as I'll show here, gets all the way into the Firefly development. And the vision here is like a light rail alignment or tracks, for example. Yes?
Back one slide real quick, please.
Sure.
I'm curious why the Pony Express, so you have the Utah County Connector, the purple line, and then you have the darker line, the Pony Express. Why do you just shoot up to Pioneer Crossing instead of going through the heart of 100,000 people? Because most of Eagle Mountain is on the Pony Express line, very few on the SR 73 Corey B. Ride Highway. Just curious why the dark purple goes along Pony Express and then shoots up Redwood Road and then goes the Pioneer Crossing route.
Councilman Comber, Kendall, if you don't mind?
Sure.
From our meeting last Monday, the conversation between Lehigh, Eagle Mountain, and Saratoga Springs, part of it was to capture our downtown, was part of it to go that way. And going south, Eagle Mountain preferred it to go up on that future freeway alignment for them and then loop down in. And have other connections, not necessarily the light rail or high speed or high capacity going up Pony Express. So as Kendall mentioned, some of this is to be studied, what makes more sense financially and what would actually fit, right? So if it needs to go down south to then go up Pony Express, that would be something considered. But these are the preferred alignments that between the three communities that we wanted them to actually spend more time looking at and delving in.
Well, I mean, the Pioneer Crossing makes sense, but then it doesn't make sense to have two lines on the same route.
So this is an either or.
But it says and.
Well, correct, but I'm just saying that they're going to look at either one. They wouldn't put necessarily.
Okay, so then the slide should say or.
Fair.
Okay,
I appreciate that. Yes, definitely.
that makes sense then. Thank you.
So was there any other questions on any of the alignments we're showing? And obviously welcome to, we can discuss further with your representatives as well. So really what we also shared in that September, previous Monday meeting as well was some of the detailed travel times and ridership forecasts, some of the cross sections as well as cost estimates, and then a draft plan for implementation. Those slides were just shared with our representatives in there with, I think it was a day or so ago. So if you are requesting to look at some of that additional detail, they can either share or we'd be happy to share that forward as well. So
Yeah, I'll forward it on to you.
We've done a lot to preserve the corridors on all the plans that you showed.
Great, thank you. So with that, I just mentioned we had the county-specific partnership meeting in September. We're shooting for one more all-together partnership meeting in October, November time. And this will be the wrap-up with a final report. And we wanted to come here to ensure that before we finalize that you are all aware of what we're up to make any final suggestions where needed, as well as providing that update that we promised this about a year ago when we were last here. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. And if there's anything else that you'd like to share a little bit, sure.
Thank you. If I could sum up with just one statement. Thank you, Lenise Davenport, MPO Director with Mountain Land Association of Governments. The key objective of this study, like Kendall said, is to really identify what does that transit network look like for Northwest Utah County. If we had all the money in the world, it would be all of those lines on that map because we realize that it's a big desert. It's a transit desert here. But we're really trying our best to work with you and your neighbor communities to make sure that we are creating a vision transit network that is possible and that we can ultimately get embedded into our regional transportation plan, which is our long-range transportation plan for the entire county. So just wanted to finish with that, and yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the council really quick, when Lenise took over at MAG, it has been really good because we're starting to push more to data-driven models like we use here in the city to look at numbers, less politics. Commissioner Acerson was on the planning or on MAG with me years ago. He has been great, as many of you know, to listen to our transit needs and actually see what we preserved and start to get traction out here. So thank you to both of you.
I will say, thank you for the years of letting us share the concerns of our citizens and listening, and we appreciate the partnership, and thank you very much. We have been very vocal, and we are now being very patient because we appreciate the hard work that's been done and what they're now working on our behalf and on behalf of our residents.
Okay. Item 6.
And then could we have a report on the UDOT Mountain View Corridor South project from Avenue Consultants?
And council, you can take it out on this group.
Thanks, Mark.
No, they've been good partners as well. All right. Sarah?
It's the next one, it's the DR5.
While that's coming up, so I introduced the team that's here. We got Justin Peterson with Avenue Consultants, got Craig Bound with Avenue Consultants, Tyler Allen with UDOT Environmental, and I'm Tyler Faddis, PM for UDOT. So we're mainly here to give you an update on this Mountain View Corridor South study that we are doing.
For the people online, and I know where you are, you better pay attention, because if I see anything negative online after this presentation, you're in trouble.
So where we are at, let's see, I'm gonna see this screen right here. So as you know, we published the draft environmental study, and we had a presentation and public open house, public meeting. And in that meeting, we had 354 comments in that, which is awesome, because it tells you your citizens are concerned, and so it was very good for us to evaluate those 354 comments, and we noticed the majority of those comments focused on the elevation of the freeway there along Talus Ridge area.
Basically, Sunrise Meadows all the way.
Sunrise, yeah,
Because it used to come up.
yeah. And so I guess I can come to the next slide here. It kind of shows what the before and after the meeting, the public meeting. So in April of 2025, our design showed, as you can see, the yellow was a elevated freeway, and the blue was the depressed freeway. So we had to start climbing around 800 West to get over some critical utilities on 400 North. We couldn't make the drainage and storm drain work, and so we had to go over. After those comments we received that reflected mostly on that elevation of that freeway, our team, Avenue, went back and reevaluated, made sure that we could not go under. And with some additional, or not additional information, but just additional look at it, we still couldn't make it until we collaborated with Mark and Jeremy. And it was suggested that we look at some existing storm drainage basins that the city had. By increasing the size of an existing city storm drainage, the city can retain more water and UDOT can dump more water. It's now feasible that we can drop that elevation of that freeway across Sunrise Meadows.
So if I could, just real quickly, that detention pond that's right on the corner of Talus Ridge, basically that pond and then going south is going to become a greatly enlarged detention basin. And then we're gonna hold back our water. Their water will discharge into our lines, so it's going to be a partnership, a collaborative partnership. And then our water will discharge after that, so we can time it so that it can carry that. So it's complicated, but they rose to the task that we gave them as a community, which was find a solution that works better for our community, and they've really done a masterful job at that. It's going to require a partnership and some collaboration on our part, but we feel like it is an amazing solution for this. So that lets us keep the freeway basically depressed until after,
Marie Way, we start
Marie Way.
climbing, yep.
so thank you.
And we appreciate the collaboration with the city. You guys have awesome personnel, so. So that's,
Real quick, I just want to point something out here. So April of 2025 was the bad news. Today is the news that we had originally talked about when this was originally designed, right? So we're bringing it back to what the plan always was to have this buried. And the late Mia Love worked really hard to make sure that this was buried. This was going to be below grade. She was, and her family is still residents, but of this community for a very long time. I know she had a part in this. I appreciate government working together and working with different entities to make the right thing work, because this is 100 years. This is going to impact these communities, the people who live there, the people who buy their house, and the next people who buy their house, and the next people who buy their house. And this is the right thing. And then having it being raised after Marie Way to Pony Express, that's a whole nother thing with sewage lines that's not workable, because Eagle Mountain, all of Eagle Mountain sewer pretty much comes through Pony Express. But I just really appreciate everyone really working together, because when I saw this earlier, when I got the packet, I literally was almost jumping out of my seat at home. I just could not believe that we were actually going to be able to do this. And so I just really appreciate Mark and staff and everyone, Jeremy and everyone on working closely with you and with other engineers, everyone to make this happen. It is going to protect the views for thousands of homes. And it's also going to be so much nicer for our new downtown, looking to the west. You're not going to have this, because this says 30 feet down. It was 30 feet up. This is a net difference of almost 60 feet. I just hope people truly understand how much this effort has benefited this community, which has really been struggling a lot lately with a lot of construction, and we've even heard about the kids walking, and just I'm so happy to see government doing good. And so I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
and that's also a good example of public input and how it affects the planning. You know, we really do hear you, take in consideration, do all we can to do our best for the community.
It helps us as elected officials when the community rallies, because we're like, listen, and people coming and making comments and making us aware of unsafe walking routes and things. That's helpful, because I wouldn't know.
And so moving forward, we're going to finalize all the revisions, the roadway and drainage design, and then we got to do some reevaluations on visual analysis, noise walls, and then we'll publish the final study. So, and we're hoping to do that sometime December for the final study. So,
Thank you.
any questions? Okay. Thanks, guys.
Well done, thank you guys.
So I get a clap from me.
Just say you're going to entertain, just say I'm going to entertain a motion on the approval of the minutes.
And now I'm going to entertain a motion on the approval of minutes September 16th, 2025.
You have a first from Councilman McComber. Just I have a first from Councilman McComber.
I have a first from Councilman McComber,
Second from Councilman Waldman.
and I have a second from Councilman Walden.
Any further questions?
Any further questions?
we can say aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
You can say it too if you want.
Motion carries.
So now we move on to.
Now we're going to move on to public hearing. Do I read the one? About the North Lake Meadows annexation, 7.3 acres more or less, located approximately Pony Express Parkway and 1650 East Street. Keaton Morton as applicant.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council, and guest council members.
Yes, so this is the North Lake Meadows 2 annexation. So as a reminder, this is the second city council meeting that this has come to. We previously had, it came about a month ago, and the city council adopted an intent to annex. And so this is the next step. We, by the annexation regulations, we're required to hold a public hearing, so that's what we're doing today. And then also, the city council has before them to make the decision whether or not to annex this into the city. So, quick recap, this is where the property is located. It's just on Pony Express Parkway. It's on the far east side of town. You can see that there with the star. There is an adjacent development, North Lake Meadows 1, right next to it, which is zoned R19. And so the proposal is to have this be kind of a second phase of North Lake Meadows and have the same zoning, which would be R19, meaning 9,000 square foot lots. You can see here, this is the concept of what the proposed subdivision would look like. There are 19 lots on a total of 6 acres there, with primary access being off of 1700 West. It has other names, that street, but, and then Pony Express is on the bottom of the screen there. 1700 West would be the Lehigh. That's the Lehigh. We call it 1650 East in Saratoga. But then there's also a county name as well for it, so. Yeah. Okay, and then we have the annexation plat. So this is the plat that they'll be submitting. One of the things just to point out here is that the roads, so Pony Express and then 1650 East, will be annexed into the city with this plat. And so I will leave that to you to open the public hearing.
Does the applicant have any comments?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, council members and Mayor. I appreciate you guys. You guys have a great staff. This is actually the 5th project I've done in this area. This is my neighborhood. I actually moved into one of the developments I did, so I try to make them good quality, obviously, if I'm going to move there. So I would have done this with the other phase if I could have. It's obviously the landowners, and they kind of have their timing of when they want to sell. So yeah, this is just basically a phase 2 of this area. So, and your staff is great to work with. That's why I keep coming back. So I appreciate it.
This is a public hearing, so Kevin, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I do, and we should probably discuss this really briefly right before the public hearing as well. So I guess there was a clause in the agreement that wasn't fully agreed to, and it's the section about roads. And under that section, there is the language that was drafted, which wasn't fully approved by engineering, was a full reimbursement for upsizing of those roads. And what was negotiated today was, that was a language that was drafted, but engineering expressed some concerns that because this is an annexation and a development agreement, in the past, at times, we've required the developer to pay for that full upsized cost. So rather than get into that, what we agreed and what we're proposing to the council is that we kind of meet in the middle and we give the developer their impact fee credits, but any additional costs they would be responsible for. So basically, the reimbursement wouldn't last beyond the impact fee credits. So if an applicant has agreed to that and staff is comfortable with that language as well. So just as part of the council's consideration here tonight.
Okay. So this is a public hearing. We'll open it up for the public for any comments on the annexation. If you're here for comments, please come up to the podium, state your name, address for the record. Avoid repetitive comments. Please be respectful in your comments. Is anybody here for comments on the annexation? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and turn it to the council for comments.
Councilman Wadman.
I think Kevin answered my question, so I think I'm good.
Councilman Wilden.
Councilman Wilden.
I was just getting ready for a motion.
I was too, yeah.
Okay. So say you'll entertain a motion.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve public hearing item number 1 as stated on the agenda, including changes to, was it the development agreement as previously discussed by our city attorney, Kevin Thurman.
So second it. So you'll say
I
second.
have a first from Councilman Wilden,
Second?
a second from Councilman McComber. Any further discussion?
Kevin, is that enough?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, as long as the city recorders, I think they're, have enough clarity with that motion, yeah.
Then do a roll call them each by name.
Councilman Barton,
Aye.
Councilman McComber,
Aye.
Councilman Wilden,
Aye.
Councilman Wadman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
You said aye really well.
And
Way better than him.
we're now gonna move on to business item 1, the major site plan amendment for Thrive Drive Daycare located at 182 East Thrive Drive, Logan Johnson as applicant.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a site plan amendment. It's a major site plan amendment because they are changing the architecture of this building. Staff has reviewed these plans, and they do comply with all of our site, parking, landscaping, and architectural codes. Thrive, just a reminder, Thrive Drive Daycare is located on Thrive Drive. You can see that there. The proposed site plan here is being reconfigured from the previously approved one. They did have to add some additional elements for the gateway overlay, so they now have benches, they now have a trash, and other features to comply with the gateway overlay requirements. You can see here, this is the updated elevations. The major change is they've actually gotten rid of their equipment yard, so they had a bunch of HVAC and equipment like that on the west side of the building, and it was going to be fenced in by a large fence. They've now moved all that equipment up into the roof, and so it's hidden within the roof itself. You can't see it from any of the neighboring properties, but it's kind of down in a little hidden area on the roof. Yeah,
Because we went through this. So for my council, I did meet with staff on this because I've had, concerns with this and making sure it meets all of the gateway. A drone, you can see the equipment, but from the ground, you can't because it's down below, but it is open so that it can vent all the air conditioning. So it's like a big hole in the roof. It's sort of weird. So it's like a flat roof, but it looks like it's a sloped roof. And see how it goes like a lighter brown there? That's like a hole. And then, so you can't see any of the equipment. It's actually much better for the city because it will hide all of that air conditioning equipment, all that big furnace stuff from being on the side and big fence and making it look very industrial. It's going to make the site much nicer as a whole. So, sorry, just wanted.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman McComber. Yeah, it's hard to explain that, so. And then you can see this is another angle from what those elevations look like. And then the lighting, as I mentioned, does meet our code, as well as the landscaping. They did add some additional ornamental trees to meet.
They maintain the berms, Stephen. The berms that we talked about, they're still there, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers that one. So let me know if you have any questions.
Ask the applicant if they want to.
Does the applicant want to add anything?
Just that, is this microphone?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, Logan Johnson with Right Development. Just that the tenant that we're putting in there is a slightly different tenant, and their building shrunk a little. So we have a little more parking, a little more landscaping, slightly smaller building. But happy to answer any other questions. Thanks.
That's the council.
Yeah, just a different, different
person, yeah.
yep, different tenant, yep.
Any other questions from the council?
Are there any other questions from the council? Councilman Wadman?
Do we have any other more discussion? I was just going to make a, okay.
Let her do the motion.
Okay.
They're going to have mine. Mine will do the next one.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the City Council approve the requested major site plan amendment for the Thrive Drive daycare located at 204 East Drive with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
I have a first from Councilman Wadman
Second.
and a second from Councilman Barton. Any further discussion? And then I'm going to do a roll call vote. Councilman Barton?
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman McComber?
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman Wilden?
Aye.
And Councilman Wadman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We go on this side. Now we're going to move on to item 2, major site plan amendment for Saratoga Crossroads Lot 1B, Dave's Hot Chicken, located 119 East Crossroads Boulevard, Polo Padilla as applicant.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this is just change of colors and architecture or materials on the outside of the building. This is in the old Burger King right behind us here. Well, it complies or it's legal non-conforming because the site's old, so there, a lot of things just, they still work. The sign permit, if you noticed in the packet, there's a lot of red lines on that. It wasn't a sign permit, it was, they showed me what the signs were. I redlined it to where, as it was a sign permit, so they can make all the corrections and it's faster for them in the future. So this is just current, that's what they're changing. So essentially, it's just that main portion in the center, black is changing to red, and they're changing the awnings to black. And then adding new windows, because those ones are broken on the south end here. And then stuccoing over the tile portion there, that you can see that the pane is chipped off there. And then fixing the ladder, the access ladder on the edge. And then that's the location where they're gonna add the monument sign in the future. That will be, that's what they proposed. That's not necessarily what it is. We understand we can't do white background and all that. I wrote that all up.
Are they keeping the monument and reducing the sign on the building? Or are they going to keep the sign on the building and do the monument? Have they told you?
Well, they can do the monument and still have 3 signs.
Right, but you said, because they had 4 signs on the building, you couldn't have the 4th, you do the monument.
They haven't said anything on that yet, so we'll make sure that's good on the sign permit portion. Are there any questions?
Is the applicant here?
She's going to do this.
I'm not sure.
Yep.
So what do I say?
Does the applicant have anything they want to add?
No, we're excited to come to Saratoga Springs.
You're going to do well here, your food's good.
Yep, people love us, so.
And I hope that there's something in that location that makes a good business out of it, so appreciate it. Because it's right there in front of everything, so appreciate a good business coming in.
I'm going to entertain a motion.
I move to approve major site plan amendment for Saratoga Crossroads Lot 1B, Dave's Hot Chicken, located 119 East Crossroads Boulevard, Polo Padilla as applicant.
I have a first from McComber,
Second.
a second from Wadman. Any further questions? Roll call, Councilman Barton.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilmember McComber.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilden.
Aye.
And Councilmember Wadman.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. See you soon.
Now for item 3, the preliminary plat for Jacob Ranch Marketplace located 1930 South Redwood Road, Bill Gaskill as applicant.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is my last item, I promise.
You are. No, it doesn't.
Let's see I don't know if we have the applicant here. But you could come up if you're here.
So this is for Jacobs Ranch Marketplace. For those unfamiliar with this, this is located down by Ring Road, and this would be the development where a new grocer is planned to go, as well as some other commercial developments. So you can see that here, indicated with the star. This is what the preliminary plat looks like. So tonight, they are just bringing forward the preliminary plat. At a later date, the site plans will come forward for each individual business. And you can see it's 10 lots is what they're showing here, with the grocer being located to the west, and then the rest of the lots being located just off of Redwood Road. And then this is the site plan. Because this is preliminary plat and it's not site plan, we don't have any landscaping or lighting or anything like that to look at this time. So it's just basically lot lines, and then we can see like a shared private road that connects all of these properties together. And then there is a phasing plan. So phase one, which is what is being proposed right now, is in the blue, and then at a later date, the green phase two would come forward. And then there is a connectivity and circulation plan. The developer has put in considerable effort to make sure that there is connectivity for pedestrians to get through this area and be connected to Redwood Road, and that's what you're seeing here on the screen with those red lines. And then finally, this is the grading plan. There was a lot of effort on this project to move most of the grading to the west or the back of the project, where it will not be visible from Redwood Road. And that is everything that I have on that. The developers here, should you have any questions.
Does the applicant have anything they want to say?
I'm happy to answer any questions, but nothing particular. Just excited to be back here. I think it's been about a year since we were here for our concept plan, so excited to be back.
We have a question. We have a question here,
Do you know what grocery store is coming?
I had a feeling I was going to get asked that.
South of this, so she's.
Yeah. You're not going to like my answer, unfortunately. Right now, because we're still at preliminary plat, we're early in the process. We don't really want to announce names quite yet. We try to let our tenants do that when they're ready. That being said, if you were to go look, you could probably figure it out on your own. I'll put that out there. If you look at some marketing material, it's not too hard. So if you really want to know, it's out there.
If you want to know, ask me on the way out.
Exactly.
Better sidestepping a question than these politicians do. Is there, Mark?
Austin, do we know how far Ring Road is going to get built? I see that it's getting built. Will it connect all the way up and around, or is that just a partial?
It's just partial. It will not be fully completed with this project. Yeah. So. Mhm.
I'd like to talk to you about that later.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a giant power pole in the way as well, so, okay.
Let them know you'll entertain a motion.
I'm going to entertain a motion.
I move that the city council approve the requested preliminary plat for plans for Jacob Ranch Marketplace located at 1930 South Redwood Road with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
First.
I have a first from Councilman Barton
Second.
and a second from Councilman McComber. Any further questions?
Roll call.
Roll call. Councilman Barton.
Aye.
Councilman McComber.
Aye.
Councilman Wilden.
Aye.
And Councilman Wadman.
Aye.
Motion passed. We'll now move on to item business 4, Saratoga Pressured Integration Well 5, change order number 3, Rocky Mountain Power Condense, resolution R2550, 100725.
Pressurized irrigation.
What's that? So Mayor and Council, this is, we're starting with the well. So this is change orders 1 through 3. This project actually has been going on for quite some time. This is probably one of the most important wells in our secondary water system. It produces almost 4,000 gallons a minute, which is the only thing bigger than that is the pump straight off the Utah Lake that we do. And we've had ongoing power issues. I don't live in Saratoga, but worked here for 20 years, and it's been a challenge with the power. It's, I guess, Rocky Mountain Power has struggled to keep up. So one of the things we're doing to upgrade this well is upsizing the services and things like that. Hopefully, it increases our reliability of this facility, reduces issues that we've experienced multiple times over the years. So, and we've had good partnership with Rocky Mountain Power, but I will point out that this $45,000 increase is due to some additional work that their inspector has asked of us that they didn't tell us. We had worked with them in advance, got approvals, and yet they come on site on some culverts, some conduits and things that they now would like upgraded or replaced or fixed that we were not aware of, so.
So are they going to be held accountable more because when we have power problems in the future, that we will be able to get credits back from them?
We have done a better job of putting.
We'll never get credits from Rocky Mountain.
Yeah. We've done a better job of putting data loggers on facilities in which we've experienced. So another a facility that we've experienced a lot of issues with is our culinary well 4, which is just over the bridge here on Crossroads. And we were able to document some of those issues and point out to them, and they have done some repairs. It's challenging when some of these issues occur. They're late at night, no one's around, and it's a very sudden issue that happens and disappears. And so it's very challenging sometimes to point out the culprit.
Yeah, but then we're not filling our wells and our
Right. So when you have a drive blow up on you overnight,
Yep.
and there's a bunch of finger pointing. So we've learned, and we've actually now we've invested in some loggers that actually document what's going on with the power, and we can use that to prove to Rocky Mountain Power that
Thanks, John.
when it's their fault. So that's this issue, this contract amendment, and then after you do this, I'll present the next one.
Say I'll entertain a motion.
I'm going to entertain a motion.
I think, Lance, you're up.
Second.
Oh, yeah, so we're going to do a motion, right?
She can just read it off.
So just read it right here. So I make a motion that we approve Saratoga.
Are there any findings?
Yeah. No, so I say, at business item 4.
This is what you get when you use Lance instead of.
It's just it's a resolution, so just approving the resolution.
I make a motion that we approve business item 4, as stated on the papers, on agenda, and I read that. Okay.
I have a first from Councilman Wadman
Sorry about it.
Should I just say second?
Second.
and a second from Councilman Barton. Are there any further discussion? Roll call. Councilman Barton.
Aye.
Councilman McComber.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman Wilden.
Aye.
And Councilman Wadman.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. The next item, business item 6 is resolution, business item 5 is resolution R 2551. This, excited to present to you our North Marina project. We have been working on this for several years. Permitting has been challenging, a lot of challenges, but this would be the first phase of opening this property to the public. So this first phase includes a new jetty into the lake, which that was one of the big permitting issues that we had. A parking lot, restrooms, working with Councilmember McComber. It now includes a bunch of trails into the rest of the property because we want this property to be not just for boaters, for all residents. There's some really cool trees. It's one of the few areas, the north shore of our lake is one of the areas that actually has nice old growth cottonwood trees and things like that. So yeah, there's going to be many, many other projects to fully develop this property that you guys negotiated with the developers, a 20-acre property. This is phase 1, but this would really get us open to the public. So awarded bid, Condi was the low bidder. They were also the bidder that did the for us 2 years ago out there. Prices came in very competitive, and we were very happy with that. So it came in about $500,000 under the engineer's estimate, 4 or 5, so 4 million. And we need them to get started immediately. As you guys know, we worked very hard with you guys. We have something like $6 million in grants with various expiration dates. And so we are very anxious to get these guys going. We have to spend money, on some of these grants before they expire. So we want to move quickly and deliver this to the public by summer of next year.
So Jeremy, sorry.
Go ahead.
So we're going to start right away, but we're forecast before summer? Is that what you're saying?
I'll double check. I believe the contract completion date is like July or August.
Okay.
So end of summer.
What's that?
End of summer.
Yeah.
End of summer, yeah. So one of the things that's challenging is so there's some good winter work here, but the paving of the parking lot can't occur until paving season occurs again, which doesn't even open up until mid-April, depending on so they won't be able to finish those portions of the project until April, May, and then, there's other things that can't occur till that occurs. So we need to give them enough time to get all that work done. But I would expect them to get the jetty done, the grading done, all that can occur during the winter.
I just want to thank staff for working through a situation where government didn't work well together. Army Corps, the EPA, Army Corps of Engineers really created a lot of drama here, unnecessarily, politically, and very inappropriately, and almost cost us grant money that was not, there's no ties, there's no entitlements. It was just pure grant money. I want to thank Jeremy and his team and really all the staff who've worked very hard to get those grants. I'm so grateful that you were able to work through that and get past it in order to not lose that money, because nothing would have gotten me more upset than all that effort and then to lose that money, then have to go to the taxpayers and have them pay for this. This North Marina is going to benefit Saratoga Springs, but of course, Eagle Mountain, Lehigh, Lehigh doesn't have a marina on the lake, and the residents will be able to use this as well. There will be different pricing structures accordingly because of there is taxpayer in-kind funding that has gone into this, especially open space credits that went to the North Shore development. And one of the reasons why North Shore development is as dense as it is because of this beautiful marina. And earlier, when UDOT was here, we have this amazing corridor that goes through the North Shore development that preserved for potential light rail, BRT, large road, and we're not gonna have to tear down houses, we're not gonna have to tear down businesses, like Lehigh will be doing in the next 10 to 15 years. You're gonna see buildings disappear, houses disappear because they did not forecast and did not plan. So I just really appreciate all the efforts here that have been made, and I'm glad that we'll be able to work on this. And the winter is a good time to be working on when the lake is low. So this is not a bad time to be getting the jetty done. So I appreciate that, and thank you, Mayor.
I'm going to entertain a motion.
I move to approve bid award approval for North Marina Phase 2 Jetty and Parking Lot Resolution R2551, 10/07/25.
I have a first from Councilman McComber
Second.
and a second from Councilman Wadman. Are there any further comments? Roll call. Councilman Barton,
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman McComber,
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman Wilden,
Aye.
and Councilman Wadman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Jeremy, I just wanted a quick question on the bid tabulation summary. Can we change Salt Lake City's logo on it next time and put ours?
I'll tell the consultant that was, fail on their part for sure.
I was being
Good eye.
early, but now you got that. You get
After the motion.
We'll try and knock some more money off the contract for that pain and suffering.
I just made fun of the street name. You're a whole nother level.
I almost made it out of here. That's good.
And now we are going to move on to item 6, resolution designating Saratoga Springs Fire and Rescue as the city's EMS service provider and supporting the relicensure of its ambulance license. Resolution R2550.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for your time. We'll be brief. We're undergoing a process right now to relicense our emergency medical service and transfer licenses with the state. There's been some recent legislative changes to that process, partially due to the fact that they're giving the council the authority to designate who those providers are within their cities. Historically, the state has always had that authority, and now they've passed it on to local governments. Part of that renewal process is every 4 years, the city has to issue a request for proposals to see if there's any competing interest for that service. The city underwent that last month with no proposals submitted for the city. So the current provider is still Saratoga Springs Fire and Rescue. In addition to the changes in that legislation was in a public meeting, we need to present to the council cost, quality, and access goals for the service. And then following that, the city and or the council can designate who they want that provider to be. Chief Coombs manages our EMS program. She's going to just review these goals really quickly.
Thank you, Youth Council, for joining us as well. So the cost, we meet annually with our billing company and city finance to make sure that we are meeting current legislation as well as adopting any state BMS allowable rates. We also evaluate our staffing model, as we presented a few meetings ago about our, strategic plan, and the response for efficiency and effectiveness. We also utilize an EMS supply inventory. We have multiple vendors, making sure that we do cost comparison so that we get the right cost for supplies that we utilize, as well as a software inventory so that we limit waste with our maximum minimums within our own supply within each station, and allows us to order when we need to. We also are currently in a 2-year agreement with Intermountain Hospital, so the standalone ER here, and that we will transport patients directly from the Saratoga ER to American Fork Hospital that needs that, and that contract will expire in January, so we'll start discussions with them as well. The quality, so we evaluate our response times for effective service. Again, we talked about that in the strategic plan. We do provide ALS services at the paramedic and AEMT level. Both of those have different rates, so we provide the citizens based on the needs with that call volume. We do hold QAs or quality analysis with our medical control doctor quarterly. Those are reviewing calls, new protocols. He has 25 years of experience in pre-hospital with the state and Utah County, so great asset there for us. We do have a critical care program. Within the county, we're the only one of 2 agencies or cities that recognizes critical care, and this is the highest level of EMS service pre-hospital. So great service there. The access, we're going to continue to grow within the city boundaries. As the city grows, our response plan will grow for both 911s and IFTs as additional hospitals arrive within our community. We utilize Central Utah Dispatch for the 911 processing, and we also utilize mutual aid and automatic aid within our neighboring cities and unincorporated Utah County.
This is just a quick snapshot of the revenue produced by our EMS program and interfacility program over the last 4 fiscal years. This is month by month. This last year, as you can see here, we brought in 1.8 million, and this next fiscal year, or the fiscal year we're currently in, it's forecasted to be 2.1 million. Some of this growth you can see 2 years ago was a big bump when we started conducting the transfers for Intermountain. And then additional to that is our growth and call volume in our 911 program. These are just some of the overall summary points from the presentation. Does the council have any questions in regards to our EMS program or interfacility transfer?
No questions, just a comment. I just really am impressed with what you've accomplished in the 2 years. I imagine that Intermountain Health Group will absolutely renew, and is my expectation, because you have done anything but stellar performance. I had to go to the ER the other day, like not too long ago, and I started, because what we do, right, we just talk to everyone. And I was asking them, I go, what do you think of our transfer group? And they just spoke so highly of your staff. So please share that back with them, that Covertly, I was asking questions, and they were very impressed with the work that you do, the timeliness that you get there when they need you. Sometimes it's quite urgent that they get someone from our emergency room to a bigger hospital. And then sometimes it's not as big a deal, but you still have to transport. And you really do meet those expectations, and they were very impressed. So thank you for all that you guys do. Please share that back with the men and women of the fire department.
We will. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you.
Say it.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution designating Saratoga Springs Fire and Rescue as the city's EMS service provider and supporting the relicensure of its ambulance licenses. Resolution R2552, 10/07/25.
I have a first from Councilman Barton and a second from Councilman McComber. Are there any further comments? Roll call, Councilman Barton,
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman McComber,
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman Wilden,
Aye.
and Councilman Wadman.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. At this point, we will pause because we've ended our policy session. We'll excuse the youth council and take a short recess, and then we'll jump back into our work session for the public infrastructure district policy discussion. Councilman Wilden, please report to the dais.
Seat goes up.
White load.
Okay. Perfect. Appreciate the recess and conversations with residents. Time well spent, but we will move on to our work session, the Public Infrastructure District Policy Discussion. Mark?
Mayor, Council, thank you very much. On August 19th, we had a previous work session discussion on a potential PID policy. And since then, we have been working on a PID policy as we were directed by the council to do. We wanted to bring this item back to you tonight so that we could discuss some of the policy implications before we necessarily nail down a policy. We apologize for a little bit of the communication delay. We had talked about having this on the agenda. It was not put on the agenda due to some logistical things last week with Nikki being out of town. And so we amended the agenda to bring it on, but again, there was always the intent that it was going to be on the meeting tonight. And it just took until us amending the agenda yesterday. Some of the things that we had talked about in the August meeting really were related to the PID policy is really designed to govern what our policy is, under what conditions we would accept applications, and then what would then guide the formation of the policy governing documents for those PIDs. And going back and listening to it is a very robust debate amongst the council about wanting to make sure that the discussion focus on the PID policy itself and not about potential applications. And so for tonight's conversation, I would very much like to keep it more high level and make sure that we just stay on the policy side of it and not necessarily get into future conversations, which, Councilwoman Barton was very clear in that a couple of times, saying, hey, we're talking about an application, not the policy. Let's stay on the policy. So if we can kind of keep focused on that.
Really quick, I asked Mark to invite our financial advisor, Science Public Finance, just so that we can ask questions, comments based on bonds we've done, and as a representative and expert on behalf of our staff.
Brian, if you would like come up
Brian,
to
if you'd like to come up and sit on the hot seats, and feel free to be part of the discussion at any moment.
Well, and it's fortuitous. We're glad that Brian could be here. Jonathan was not able to make it. Unfortunately, he was double booked, and he was trying to figure out a way to make it from a meeting in South Ogden between 5 and 6 to the South Davis, a meeting in South Davis, which was going to be 6 to 7, and then make it down here. And I just was like, there's no way you're going to do that. So
when we paused, I told him, get on down here. You might still make it.
I don't think so. So anyway, Brian, Mayor asked that yesterday, and so we were able to get Brian set up to be with us. So I put in the policy, or I put in the packet yesterday, 2 separate policy documents. And one of the policy documents is a draft that Zions gave to us that had Zions, and I'd asked Jonathan and his team to come up with something that would put guardrails in place from a comfort level that as a community we could talk about. It's not set in stone, it's merely parameters. Tonight is all about kind of trying to establish what are the parameters that the council wants us to consider so that future applications would need to fall within those parameters, and how might we rate and look at those future requests for that. And so we have the Zions policy document, and then an additional document that I got. One of the conversations that occurred on the August 19th meeting was collaboration with the developers. So we reached out to Bart, who got us a copy of a draft PID policy, and I'm going to call it the Gilmore Bell policy, because although they may have modified it, we actually received a copy of the Gilmore Bell policy back in 2023. And as we've discussed in the past, as a city, we had been working on a draft PID policy, not not ever bringing it forward because at that time we had not come to the conclusion of moving forward with it. And so I'm going to call it the Gilmore Bell policy because we've already looked at that. We had made some changes and we had started some drafts back in '23 of what that might look like. Now, the council's direction since then has changed. And so it's a pretty substantive revamp, but we're comfortable with that document in its base form because we were already looking at it. And so what we have done to this point is we've taken, and I have not shared this with you, it's still very much a draft. Kevin was working on it last week, and he got it to me Monday around 11:30, and we'd already sent the other two policy documents out. And for tonight's purposes, I wanted to just stick with the two policy documents. One, Zion's Bank is more granular, more restrictive in some regards. The Gilmore Bell policy, it's still very standard. A lot of the verbiage was very much the same to what we had been working on since '23. We asked Brian if he could come in and walk us through some of the policy recommendations that they had in their document. We have tried to incorporate those Zion's policies back into the Gilmore Bell. So that's kind of where we're at mid-draft with that particular thing. But after tonight, we'll be able to take whatever policy direction you give us and continue to move down the path of polishing that off. Again, I had originally started working on the Zion's policy, and then in looking at the Gilmore Bell, it was just so close to what we had already looked at. I felt like we could go either way, and as potentially, the compromise, we could just stick with that policy document and bringing into it the potential Zion's policies that would put a little bit more parameters in place. So that's kind of where we're at on the policy document side, and you've had a chance to look at both the Zion's policy document and the Gilmore Bell document. And so, Brian, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn it to Brian and let him kind of walk us through these various policy documents. I've prepared some draft slides of policy considerations. Again, this is based on the comments that were made in the last meeting in August. And then, if we have time and depending on how long we want to go, there are some things that we could dig into, talk about what are the kind of regional or what are the larger benefits. Much of the debate on the 19th centered around what would entice the city to want to create a PID, what would bring enough regional value to the table for you to want to consider that. And so I've pulled those documents, or I've pulled some of those items out of those meeting minutes. And then I've added a few more just for kind of policy discussion's sake. And so with that, I'll turn it to Brian, and appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. As someone who's had a couple of kids on the Mapleton Youth Council, I was a little disappointed to see the Youth Council dismissed. It's like letting them attend the pregame and then kicking them out for the main event. But so when you're looking at it, you're looking at a document that you're going to set up that sets the guardrails. And, what do we need it for? Well, why do you have building codes? Why do you have zoning? It's basically so that somebody who puts an application in isn't just spitballing and hoping that you might think their project is worth something and worth considering, but you actually can refine what it is that are the type of applications you'll get. And so every city is different. Mark is very generous to call it like the Zion's document. It kind of, the things that are in there have grown out of us helping a number of cities and counties put these policies together. And then oftentimes it's them coming to us and saying, well, I don't like the fact that they could do this, or I don't like the fact that they can do that. And okay, let's talk about it. And if you want to put some language in there, you can put some language in there that puts a guardrail on this. Important for you to remember is that this is a PID policy. It doesn't approve anybody's PID, and the council still has full authority to approve or not approve a PID. But kind of like your building codes, the idea is like, you don't want to haggle over every single thing in a PID application every single time they come. And so the idea is, if there are substantive things that you all agree on enough to say, let's put this in there, let's make this a no-go, let's totally approve this, and then you set some standards, and then everybody who comes and says, well, I think I want to do this development in Saratoga, then they can figure out, well, if we did it a little bit more this way, this would fit with their policy. And then I think we've got a good shot at it, or they'd know, what we're looking for, what we're asking for is kind of outside the realm of the way they've been handling these things. Because every city does it differently. There are cities that have approved PIDs and done it without a policy. And there are, and And in some ways, they'll say, oh, well, you know, we don't want to put a policy in place where if an applicant comes in and they check all the boxes on the policy, we then feel like we have to approve it because they met our policy requirements. I think Mark's approached this in the right way. This is like getting in the gate. This doesn't stamp seal of approval if somebody just checks the boxes that go with the policy that you're putting together. And so in thinking about it high level, when you're looking at these documents, you are asking yourselves the question, what is it that we want to see here? What is it the benefit that we hope to get out of going through the process of helping create a PID so that a developer can go and they can issue debt at subsidized rates in ways that will help their project move forward? And usually we talk about, Benj used to work with Zions and from Piper Sandler, I know who was here last time, and he would always use the phrase gap analysis. You're looking for what is it that either this project would never happen without this support through the PID, or it would happen, but it's going to be really, really hard, and they're not going to put in the open space we want. They're not going to have the street widths that we want. There's going to be some things that aren't as attractive. But with this tool, they can come and they can say, hey, here's what we can do, and if you allow us to do a PID, then these are the community amenities, or these are the public benefits, or you're either looking for specific things that it helps provide the community, or in certain cases, you really are, there are communities that are looking at we just want development to happen, and if we can incentivize it to happen, we'll do whatever it takes to just get development here. I would probably believe that's not your case. You have things happening all over the place, and it's great. So that's the context for looking at what are these different provisions that we're talking about, what do they do, and why would I feel comfortable or uncomfortable mandating something in the policy to kind of take it off the table for the application? Because if you are less restrictive in the policy, then you'll have more discussion on the application because there'll be a broader breadth of what applicants can bring to you. And if you're able to narrow down and say, no, there are some things that we feel pretty important about that we should focus on and that we would kind of gear applicants towards, then you will have less opportunity to have to inform people, this really isn't the kind of thing that we're looking for, or this, here are the other issues of why we wouldn't want to do this. So I was thinking that maybe we just flip through I've got the copy that is I guess it's the Zions policy, and that's but to talk through what the different categories of things are that we're looking for. As Mark mentioned, if you map these two documents, the Gilmore Bell one, we work with Gilmore Bell all the time, they're great, and the Zions Bank one, if you map them together, like 85% of the verbiage is identical. Yeah. So there are a lot of very, very similar things in here. So like Mark said, it doesn't really matter which document you choose to go with. We have no pride in authorship. It's just, are there things, restrictions or inclusions from what we have that you might want to put in their document, or are there things from our document, if you used it, that you'd say, that's more than we want to do. Let's, take that.
So real quick, Mayor, I think that do it for in terms of time. If we're going to be using the Gilmore Bell, potentially you're saying, and then we're going to pull in what from Zions, if we can just focus on what the gaps are. Okay. What are the things that are in Zions that aren't in the Gilmore? Because I went through it, and so did Audrey and others. And for me, I would rather what are we going to need to pull from Zions or consider and put into Gilmore?
Okay, well, let's start with the Gilmore Bell document then.
Yeah, I just want to know, what are the Zions things that are missing that we would want to consider?
Okay.
So if I could, again, AI is great. It helped kind of quickly organize things. And so I think from a discussion standpoint, one of the things that, from a formatting standpoint, formatting really doesn't matter. But we do have, one of the first things that jumps up is a structural organizational difference. And that is, how do we form the PID committee? The Gilmore Bell policy basically is that there's no formal review committee and that it's handled by the city council and staff. The Zions policy basically recommends the creation of a PID committee, which would have financial advisor, it would have maybe some of the planning staff, perhaps the economic development director. It would have a group of people that would review the policy applications and then make a recommendation to the council based on the review, but there would hopefully be enough parameters whereby they would be able to judge whether or not it meets the majority of the council's policy guidance that we would establish in the PID policy. So that was one of the first items on that. Now,
I'm just afraid that they're not gonna, you can keep going.
yeah, I was going to say Zion's Bank doesn't go so far, but what we've done in the past, we've had liaison roles for. So fundamentally, if the council wanted to put one or two council members in that PID group, they could work through those things and then bring that to the full council once it's had a chance to kind of go through and work through some of those issues. So again, that's one of the first differences that we noted in the policies is, do you have it so that it's only reviewed by and only approved by the council, or does staff take a whack at it before it comes, staff and council perhaps?
I'd want 2 city council members in that. We've done that with Legacy Farms. The mayor had representatives there. I mean,
I think, if we were to do that and have council members, rather than have it come up by project, have it assigned in January as a committee assignment at our offsite, and then that would be your assignment for the year. If there's no PIDs, there's nothing. If there's 5, there's 5. And then next year, you could, as a council, decide who's on the PID in advance.
Mayor, it could even be you're the liaison for PIDs and planned community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's the planned community zone, you know what I mean? Like any big project, you're the 2 that are going to be for that year. That mean Chris or whoever, when Chris is the mayor and whoever on the council, but that's a good idea.
So can I ask, what is the responsibility as a PID counts? Because once we set the PID policy, isn't that just up to us with reviewing or?
Well, it would definitely be a review process of going through. So one of the things that was a big discussion item for the council back in August is what's the regional benefit that justifies the council saying, yes, we'd be willing to consider that. And so that's where it would take a look at what is the benefit. For example, if an application were to come in and it didn't have any of those component parts, again, I don't know how the council would vote on this, but based on the conversation we had in August, there was kind of a split council on whether you'd want to consider something that didn't meet that standard. So again, us trying to establish what that standard looks like, and then perhaps those liaisons could then say, we think this is close or it's not enough. You could work with the developer and say, hey, not enough regional significant value that gets us there, amend it and we'll take it back to them or not.
Mark, if we have a PID policy that's pretty well-defined and understood, the objective of this council or of this group would be to review
the application.
Okay.
And make sure that it meets kind of the criteria of what the council's looking for.
But they couldn't stop the person from going to the council. If they don't agree with the recommendation of that committee, they still come to the council.
Right. I mean, the committee could send forward a negative recommendation.
Just like the planning
They'll
commission.
come to the council.
Just like planning commission.
Based on that, yeah. So again, you get to write the policy for however you want it to look like. And so again, these are just some things that, are.
I think the most important thing there is, I don't necessarily think that our liaisons, I mean, we all try to do our best, but I don't think we always get what everybody is feeling about it. So with my worry there is if we do like a committee, not against committee either, but with liaisons, is it going to be the case? So this is how the entire council feels. Is that going to work out? Right? Because I feel like, again, I think we've done our best trying to make sure that we are getting, talking to everybody else, but we don't always do that. Like, there are some things that liaisons have been on that I haven't been on. I haven't got one phone call about it. The next thing you know, it's in front of us, right? So that's the concern I would have if we did a committee with 2 council members, is that doesn't always get back.
Good point. Sorry. I would say I do like the concept of a committee. My concern with having 2 council members on that, or even 1, is some staff tend to just defer to those council members' opinions. And I would prefer, if I were on a council, one of these is what is the consensus opinion? What is your recommendation versus just 1 or 2?
I would picture
that
came into a work session, like a lot of our things do, and then like Michael and I we've had work sessions on this monument entry. As a council, we've heard it.
Talk about it, and then you guys go.
And then the 2 of us are liaisons saying, yeah, that's close to what we feel like the council is from the work session.
Because we've talked in the work session about it, exactly.
We don't want to have 11 work sessions.
But these projects are big enough where it could justify potentially a work session where then you say, well, Chris would be the one, probably be like, we're going to assign the liaison.
Yeah.
But then we have a conversation.
Can I tease you a little bit? We don't know. I mean, you guys need to set the policy on how big of a project are we talking about? Is there a certain size? Is there, I mean, those are the things that we're going to need to work through. So to your point, theoretically, they should be big enough, but we could have small applications trying to come through, and that's where you need to set some policy guidance and whether it meets the threshold or not.
There's also flexibility built in the drafts that I've seen that even though you have the policy that there's subject to your legislative discretion, you don't have to comply with it in every case. So that's why maybe that committee would be helpful. Because developers will have specific requests.
I think where these can be politically charged, I think that's why you appoint them in January before you even know what's coming. Because, you know, my prior banking experience, I could know Edge Homes and be like, I want to be on that committee. There could be a conflict.
Sure.
So it's arbitrary in January, the council unanimously agrees, and then whatever comes throughout the year.
I think, and maybe this is where Councilwoman Barton is leaning, does staff just review it and send forward a recommendation, and then all of these end up going to the council, but they go forward with it complies, it doesn't comply, and we're just going through kind of the checklist of whether it complies or whether it not complies, and then it takes the maybe the political pressure of having to be on a PID policy committee out. And I think that might be worse.
I think I would be very supportive of that because it's not all that different than what we do with the planning commission.
And every other.
And every other officially chartered committee, not that it has to be chartered or anything like that, but there's like 4 staff, you went through it, it met these yay or nay. Now, there's this part about if it's significant infrastructure or whatnot, then the council needs to weigh that versus, you know, Sarah trying to interpret what crazy Lance wants in it, right?
But I think to that point, Mark, staff can go through that, get it all to compliance. It comes into that work session. Then we already have that committee in place. Maybe the council's like, that's great, we're happy, we're done. Maybe there's, you know, as he just said, Crazy Lance has, you know, he wants a statue after Wilden in it, you know, or something. Then it can go back to, hey, here's the committee, it's already formed, let's fine tune it from what we heard as a council. Staff got it to here, we had a work session, it's not fully flushed out.
Then that's where the staff that's where the liaison.
That's where the liaison, they wouldn't come in at the front.
So I've seen these work also as like a, you know, for any item that you have before council, you'll have a staff report. And so we'd see these as kind of, in some cases, they've used them as like a glorified staff report where staff goes through it and gives, you know, here's the 2 or 3 pager that summarizes this very long, exhaustive set of documents that you can read through. And then you have an understanding of like, these are the things I'm looking for as I pick through this if I have time to spend a couple hours digging through it, because now I know that, you know, it doesn't hit these couple of things, but it hits these things, or they're asking for an exemption on this, or they're asking for more of this. And then that gives you direction. And as Councilmember Barton mentioned, the idea that it's not that review is like a policy level review. It's not a, do I like this project? I'm not going to express myself on like, I love this project, let's go so much. Although there, you know, it'll have a discussion of the project, but it'll be more, here are all our criteria.
I think by the time that staff report gets to that first work session, it should be, it meets, or we're missing something, or there's an exception.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of, you know, one of the next policy questions that you know, I was contemplating is completeness. Do we have that more rigid policy that says can comply, shall comply? And then if they've not submitted something, is it ready to go to the council? I mean, what's the level of completeness that you would want before it comes to that work session?
Well, today we had an application with like 70% of it that said can comply. I mean, so I think, you know.
I like the comply, can comply.
Yeah, the shall comply or
concepts.
can comply,
Okay.
yeah.
But
But like, as long as it says it's in the comply, then I'm okay with it not being completely fleshed
But
out.
I guess the question is like, if they're asking for an exception, then where do we, right? Like,
Well, and an exception could just be marked as an exception, and then that goes to the council. So again,
but yeah, do we let them come forward with 5 exceptions or 1 exception or what, right? I guess that's the thing.
yeah.
Well, so can I ask, what are other cities? What do other cities do that are, do they have this committee?
So there's a PID up in Summit County that is declared that they are not going to be able to make their payments, and it went through city council with no real review, and was just kind of, you know, it's like, hey, You know, I mean, so you're putting something in place that gets in front of just the council just hearing an idea in a meeting and just being like, okay, let's go, let's do it. And, you know, and approving the documents that go with it, the governing documents, those sorts of things. The attorneys can put those together very quickly. So you can get a governing document that 98% of it reads like every other governing document, but there are specific things in there that you'd be looking for that would be things that would help determine whether it was, whether there were risks to the project that were just very obvious and so it's, but we have seen work sessions where everybody just comes to the work session and that's where the council hears about it for the first time. But we do have a number where staff takes it and kind of crunches through it and then puts something out for the council to have in hand before they come to the work session.
And the second one, thanks for that response. I mean, I don't know if we know this, Mark, but what our forecasting, is this going to be a weekly thing or twice a year? I mean,
So
Depends on how big.
it's a great question. Depends on how loose the policy is.
Okay.
We are statistically about 45% built out as
Right.
of right now. That's the most recent update of where we're at. So we're developing fast. And so we've got 55% of the city to grow. It's really going to depend, and it depends on what limits you put. For example, if you were to say, we're only going to consider it for X number of acres, and I don't know what that might be, but X number of acres or more, and X number of regional benefit, there may be a lot of the smaller developments that just will never cross that threshold because they're not bringing in the regionally significant benefit to the council to pass that threshold.
But it is possible that each area could have a different PID.
If you wrote a policy that allowed for it, yes, potentially.
That would just, okay.
Yeah, so it's the great unknown of what ultimately is the governing documents looking
Now,
like.
other cities that do this, do they,
Acreage is acreage.
I mean, okay, I think you answered it.
So if I can extrapolate from what what you were kind of leaning to, Benj, when he was here, said over 150 PIDs have been created statewide. The policy was adopted in 2019 by the legislature. And so the question fundamentally goes to do we need a financing tool like this to spur development? And I think that's what Brian was somewhat alluding to earlier. We don't really need to throw gas on the development fire. We got a lot of things going on. But if there are some things that are of enough value to do this, you can be more selective. Some communities, as Brian indicated earlier, are just desperate for development. And we're looking for the right kind of development to round out our community. And so the threshold that we establish in our policy will probably govern that a little bit.
Okay.
And it can become a negotiating tool because if there's subsidized interest rates to it, or there's millions of dollars that weren't otherwise just right there available, but they're able to borrow against the future increment that's coming down the road, that's an enhancement or a benefit to them. And so that's where you're able to sit down and say, okay, what does this bring to the city? What do we get out of this that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise if we just would have left it and let it go?
Just kind of, since we're dancing around this elephant on size, Councilman McComber just was saying, 500 acres is regionally big enough that it requires bigger roads, bigger infrastructure. You start to get smaller than that, it's not. So I could get behind his concept of 500 acres or more.
What do we require for?
PC?
Yeah.
PC is, I believe, 500 acres.
Yeah,
but
Perfect.
interestingly enough, that's a threshold, yeah. If you want 500 acres.
I mean, just so we're not getting stuck on it, I could get behind Councilman McComber's suggestion.
So that's sort of what I wanted this work session to go is like get some of these nuggets out there, have this conversation so that we can, in a very timely manner, have this PID policy, because I'm going to be straight, and Lance, I'm going to answer, you asked them, but I'm going to give you my answer to this. If I really want to have a PID policy in place so that we're grandfathered in, because the state legislature is going to do something on this in February. I guarantee you there will be a policy that is going to be forced on cities and if we have something that we can potentially, through the league, we could push and say, cities who have a PID policy in place get to keep their existing PID policy. And so that's why the pressure to have a policy in place so that we can get grandfathered in. Because I would rather have Mark, Zions, I would rather have, and us, Jim. I mean, I was just whispering to Jim because we were making some comments and stuff, and I said, with Steve and Jim and I mean, 15, 30, another 15 with his finance committee, 45 years of experience is going to be walking out the door in January, right? And so just getting this policy in place, because it's going to be something that, and can be tweaked in the future with future city councils and stuff, of course.
No, I agree with you.
But just if we can get something in place. So I would really love to get through some of these bigger nuggets like acreage, terms on debt,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And yeah.
Just a quick mention, on the small size, they kind of self-police because they're a pain. They're a separately created legal entity that has to publish financial statements, that has to follow all state procurement, that has to have open meeting laws, and has to have
It does,
board.
and so the county's dealing with it because they did make it too easy, and now they're dealing with one that's going defunct. So I want to make sure we have a good acreage so that they don't even have an option.
Can I ask on the acreage, Mark, how big is, like, say, Teguayo? Can you remind me?
Teguayo is 700, yeah.
So do we have any potential community? I guess where I'm going is, like, I wouldn't want, if, say, a developer came in with 1,000 to split it into 2 separate PIDs. If we picked 500, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So again, if you don't want overlapping PID districts, that would be a policy that you'd want to put in place, so that they could potentially have 2 PIDs based on the timing of it, because there's
Okay,
the
fair
time
enough.
limit.
But they can't overlap.
But you could make it so that they wouldn't overlap, so that you could address those types of.
So I like the bare minimum of 500 acres and no overlapping.
I agree with the no overlapping.
Is council okay with 500 acres, no
Yeah,
overlapping?
so explain to me a little bit about how they can overlap, like if they have 2 separate, so say they do 1,000 acres and they do a PID for that, is that gonna be a higher amount than if they do the 2 500s? How does that change?
It would be 2 PIDs sitting on top of each other. So if they both had a 5, or a 5.
Yeah, but would one house be paying two of the PIDs? That's my question. If they're not, then I
Brian,
don't.
correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the state code does, I read it and I can't see it clearly in my mind right now, but you don't want your PIDs to overlap, because you don't want someone being able to get charged, say, 5 mil on one and 5 on the
For
other.
sure, but I don't know how they would overlap, because
What-
the same house will the same house be in 2 PIDs?
Well, what I'm suggesting is if there's no overlap, then let's say the first 4 phases takes up that 5 acres, and they issue a certain amount of bonds for that, then that's helping to build that infrastructure, and then maybe they're going up to the next zone of infrastructure, and they need another for the next 500 acres or something like. So again,
So the same development could have a couple different PIDs.
They just can't overlap.
if that's the policy you want us to create, yes.
I think legally
That was
they
one of my
can.
questions on here.
Because I'm looking at page 4, evaluation criteria B1 on the Gilmore Bell one, and it says districts should not include land that is already included within the boundaries of another public infrastructure district without express provision in the adopted governing document. So that indicates that state law-wise, you could have overlapping PIDs. And so their version says you have to just talk about that and kind of address what that means.
I would say policy, no overlapping PIDs.
Okay.
Let's double tap.
Is the council good with that?
Because it is double dipping, yeah, it's double taxation.
So if I could, let's talk, we need to hit probably mills. We probably need to hit duration of debt. Probably should talk a little bit about restructuring. The next thing on my list was, there was a difference between the initial retainer. Zions was recommending 5,000, the Gilmore Bell was at 2,000. I don't think that's really a barrier, especially because that's going to reimburse the expenses that are drawn in the creation of the PID policy.
So it means they have to come up with 2,000, that's.
It's a $3,000 difference. I don't think that's
What
going
did we
to.
decide on the committee? Did we decide on that?
That's a great one, thank you. On the committee, where are we at with the committee?
I thought we left that staff would review it, bring it with a comply, can comply, shall comply to council for a work session.
Okay.
If it's done, we go out of work session. We have to have liaisons. They would have already been picked at the start of the year, and that's the committee.
Only if there's discrepancy.
Only if there's discrepancy.
And if they come forward with 20 exceptions, just like the planning commission, I would expect a recommendation of a denial.
Or go to the committee, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a work session, we're not voting, right? Yeah, so we need to.
Sorry, if it was an official recommendation.
Yeah.
But I expect something from
Say it
staff
goes to a
for it again.
committee, then Do we let them have 3 months? I think there should be like they have 10 to 14 days, but they have, I mean, we don't, we
have our standard.
we give them like 6 months or how, I mean, what's the time frame on that?
Well, 10 to 14 days could be very rushed, especially.
I don't think she was meaning
Yeah,
that.
no. So what do you want it to be? I mean, that's a great question. What would
I
you
mean,
like
I
that to
don't-
be?
I
Within
don't
30
want-
days? You know, the
Well,
next, 30 to 60
30
days or
days.
something like
What's
that?
the return on a community plan?
Planned community.
Planned community, thank you.
Usually about a month.
I would align it with that.
Our planned community is a month review?
No, it's been about 5 weeks.
Whatever the standard is for that, I just make it consistent.
So if the staff recommends or doesn't recommend when, with this new, as somebody's asking for a PID, and it comes to us
Work session.
and to a work session, and we discuss it and we don't agree or whatever, then that, it goes to the committee then, or what's the?
No, so the application would come in,
Okay, they would
the
review.
committee would review it, and then send forward a staff report
Oh,
to the
we
council.
had, the committee reviews that, I thought staff was.
No, the committee would include.
Staff committee.
It would consist of potentially like the finance director, the economic development director, the planning director. It's
Okay,
whatever
so that's two
we.
different things in my head, because at first we said we're gonna create this committee, and then we said we're just gonna have staff do it.
Well, again, do you want council on the committee, or do you not want council
Not on the
the
first
Saying
one.
Staff first, bring it to the work session, and then if there's a lot of uncertainty, then the pre-established 2 council members will then be part of a review committee, not the staff review. So the staff review would happen like any other application, but it would be required to be brought to a work session,
Right.
not an up-down vote.
That's when we discuss it then, okay.
That's when we discuss, because if it's brought to Stephen's point, if it was brought to a vote and they're asking for 12 exceptions,
Yeah.
then it would be recommended to denial. But if it's a work session,
We
it's
can
just
talk about
discussion,
why, yeah.
and then
Okay, that's, yeah.
Mayor Karn says, okay, we have a lot of ambiguity here. We're going to form a committee. We have 30 days to bring it back for a policy review, and the 2 council members who are pre-assigned, boom, you're assigned.
So who is that, so the staff reviews that brings
Politics
us,
out of
who's on the committee when it comes to like, not us, but like staff?
Who would you
The main
like?
staff
I mean, the Zion's
It's
policy
usually
recommends
engineering.
management, finance, legal, economic development, engineer. I mean,
like a regular
it's kind of a
application.
committee of staff. If you're comfortable, we'll look at that and we'll have something like that. Again, this is us gonna put some parameters on it. We'll bring it back for your review.
Yeah.
Are you good with
But
that?
I would rather have as much of it pre-done.
And then we would appoint liaisons, so we'll put some language in where 2 council members will be chosen as liaisons at the start of the year. And then we would also work on some language as to how quickly it gets to that work session.
Yeah.
Are you
And
comfortable?
when it comes back, after it goes to the committee, because I don't want the committee to
Yeah,
take forever
Work
either.
session.
No, the committee won't approve it. It comes to council for approval.
Yeah, but the
30 days.
committee will have to talk first, yeah.
The 30 days to bring it back.
Whatever
Basically, you
you
have
guys-
2 councils.
So the
30
PID
days from the
committee,
developer submitting
work
any
session.
changes.
the PID committee has, for just illustrative purpose, 30 days to get the committee, or to go through it and then make a recommendation to the
Back,
council
yeah.
at the next council meeting.
Yeah.
Said planned communities are more.
They're
5
45
weeks, so
days.
you'd say 45 days.
This is not, it's not as extensive as that, so I think 30 days is probably realistic. And guess what? You can change the policy, you know. That would, it wouldn't, because we could just say, you know, theoretically, we could say, okay, Zion's, you know, you come join us for the PID committee in that 30-day window. It will not require consultants necessarily.
But when they bring in their application after the PID, then that's when you're the bigger 5-week.
Right.
Huge.
Again, this is whether, I mean, this is, does it meet the policy guidelines? Take it to council. Council then says yay or nay, and then we work on the governing documents and the other technical side of that.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm okay. I mean, we have time to think about it too, because
Yeah,
when it
that's
comes
great.
back, we can check. What are the other ones? Let's come off, Mark.
So,
I think to a point you and I talked about a few weeks ago, we're being good financial stewards. If there's 2 layers of review, we don't want to end up like Park City where it's defaulting.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Summit County.
Summit County,
Park
sorry.
City would fight back and say that.
Let's Summit
It was
County.
actually created by Colville, is where
Okay.
where that property's located.
But, you know, to that
Nice
point,
golf course.
an extra 30 days to make sure we do it right is not, I mean, on a 20-year, 30-year bond, it's not much.
And the developer would, I think, hope to appreciate that as well, because then they know they're getting into a good partnership.
Okay. So let's see,
For the mill levy, let's do that one next.
like ongoing costs are very similar. I'm sorry, Michael, what do you,
Let's do the mill levy one next.
The mill levy? Okay, so mill levy, state maximum is 15 mil.
15.
Our current, and I did create just kind of a, our current mill levy, if you see on there, I think Park City, or not Park City, you got Park City in my head, Michael. Saratoga is, I believe, the yellow. And if you notice, when council raised the rate back in about 2008, 2009, the council raised the rate to, I think it was around a 2.6. And then because of property valuations and things, it went up just above the 3 mil, the 3 mil. The orange line is a 5 mil. Currently, Alpine School District is at a 5.8 as far as a mill levy. And then you've got, I believe I put a 7 on top in the blue line there. So again, that 7 would be half of the 15 max. It kind of comes down to how do you want to look at that? As far as a mill levy goes, this is about what our current mill is. I took generals. I didn't, throw in any of the little small, super small tax numbers that might be there, but that's about where we're at today. You can see Alpine School District in this model. I can't see it, but I believe it's like 70-something%, 72%. And they're at that 5.8. Depending on if you went at a 0.7, 0.007 mil, then the PID would actually be above Alpine School District. If you limited it at the 5, it would be at about the same as Alpine School District currently is. They're, like I said, at a 5.8 as opposed to a 5.
So
Yeah.
Mark, while you're showing this, not on the mill levy thing, but we'll use Teguise, because Councilman Wilden did.
Sure.
PIDs, I don't want them to be named Saratoga. It's Teguise. When residents show up and they're ticked at Councilman Wadman for their tax rate, I want it separated.
Don't say PID, say
Teguise, PID,
I made a
Teguise,
note,
but
it's not the city Saratoga Springs PID approval. So again, in this particular scenario at the 0.05, you see that Alpine's still just slightly higher, but I'm going to stand up here just so I can read it. Sorry, I don't have my glasses. But you can see that the PID in a 5 would generate on a $500,000 home about $13,775 a year in a tax increment. And so, again, that would be slightly less than that. The city's current tax rate generates, we'll call it $270 on a $500 home. So just keep in mind that that's kind of the size of what this potentially would look like.
So Mark, what we're talking about here is this, we would set this as max.
You would set whatever you want it to be at the max.
The max is 0.015.
That's the
state
state,
law.
but if we set it at.
You can set it less than that.
So if we set it, okay,
And the max, just for comparison, max for cities is 0.007.
right, and not that, because they're
We're not
business,
anywhere
they're
near.
business people, so they'll probably max it out at the time, but they could do it less.
Well, they could do it less, but again,
They'll go to maximum whatever we're allowing.
so that's where the policy guidance of where you say your limit is really kind of important.
Okay.
And so, again, I use these for illustrative purposes. No, this is not Zion's doing calculations. It's the quick and dirty just to kind of demonstrate what this might look like.
Steve, Kevin, sorry, we're 0.007 is our max?
That's the
State law,
state law max.
0.007.
Yeah, so I'm okay with 0.005 at the most.
0.005, okay.
That's me, that's just my as you're looking at putting this together,
Sure.
but
Yeah, no, that's what we need is.
Both versions of the document say you're stuck at this number unless so it actually, both of them include language already that says if you want to go above this, you have to demonstrate and provide why that's a smart thing for the city to do.
And that would then be controlled in your governing document, but
then
as
the
far as.
future city council can decide that. I can't imagine them wanting to allow people to get taxed $2,000 more, but yeah.
Yeah.
They
and-
could.
Well, and we've seen how the Alpine School District policy has impacted, in elections and things of that nature. So again,
And then this amount would never be able to be increased. 100% of the residents have to vote for it, plus the entire council has to approve it. That'll never happen in any world. There's never going to be 100% consensus. Is that how it's written, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean.
Can be.
When the application comes in, all of the residents, which is basically usually it's 1 or 2 landowners, they all have to be on board.
Right,
And
but in the future, 100% of the landowners have to agree for an increase.
For an increase, yes.
That's what I'm saying,
And so that, you're correct, that would never happen. Just anecdotally, we have not seen, there have been some cities that have just kind of thrown the barn doors open and just said, hey, yeah, your document says you can borrow up to 15. We have not seen anybody borrow at 15 because there's this interplay between, there's nothing in the ground right now. And so an investor is saying, you're gonna repay my $100 million worth of bonds, and right now you have nothing, and you're counting on 15 mils of property tax on stuff that doesn't exist now to make the payments. So we've generally seen those bonds when they've been issued. Sometimes they'll use assessments to help, or to pledge land value and such. But if they're doing an incremental property tax, we haven't seen residential, I don't think, much above 5. I think we have a couple cases where someone has wanted to do a 7 or an 8, but we haven't seen.
So most are about .005.
Yeah.
I have a quick question just on one of these documents. I didn't even know, like, whose was whose. I just went through both of them that Michael told me today.
No, I was the one who told her which one.
Anyway, so there was some conflicting language that we're kind of talking about, but just to make sure. So the one said housing-focused bids shall not impose a millage rate that exceeds 0.5% for every dollar, but then over here it says proposed mill levies align with the city's policy to not exceed the currently imposed city tax rate for housing-focused projects. That means we can go to 0.07 and then 5% for commercial developments.
So,
So there is a little conflicting, well, it was to me, I don't know, right where it says, yeah.
right. So again, you guys get to pick. There's not perfect consistency amongst those. One of the.
This was in the same document, that's why I was confused.
There was a.
Yeah, and in Zion's, we had talked before we had our last meeting, I believe, about potentially capping it at whatever the city's rate was.
Oh, okay.
And we had talked about that. I changed it in one of the references, and I must
Okay,
reference, so my
so
fault.
would this be the 0.5 would be for commercial and for housing?
Yes, if you choose, if you choose for that, yeah. And I believe the document that Kevin has been working on that merges them, I believe it was consistent in that one, so I apologize.
Can I ask, so the one prepared by, not Zion's, the other group, can't remember.
Gilmore Bell.
Gilmore, they said 5% up to 7% with some justification. Well, if our city rate's whatever, 3 point whatever, why wouldn't we say, hey, 3%, similar to the city with justification, say up to 5?
You could do that. Again, this is your policy document as to what do you want to allow for?
I mean, I'm not comfortable with a 7% because that would be higher than.
That's us, because we have 7.7, right?
Well.
No.
We have the ability to go.
Oh, yeah,
We have the
right.
ability to go that high.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you're way under that. 'cause
We're way
it's-
under it.
We're
State law is
0.000.
Yeah.
So,
We're incredibly low.
Where did I get the 0.3?
So I have one question though.
Good luck.
Audrey,
0.3 was another alternative of do you limit it to a 0.3?
Oh.
Because the 0.3, what I was just trying to illustrate was the 0.3 is about the max that our rate ever got.
And somebody comes in.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so, again, and these are all the other cities. We have this same graphic in our budget document and have for years, and it's comparing these different cities and where their rates are. So again, this is just from a
Well,
consistency standpoint.
So 0.3 is just arbitrary.
so I have a,
Well, it's the most that the cities are currently charging.
Right.
so what Audrey was saying with commercial or residential, commercial, you'd still have that 500 acre limit, right?
Well, they're in the same development, yeah.
Okay, oh, so it could be combined. for
Well, because
that.
commercial is in the 500 acres, there'll be a commercial.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Provo did a PID for only I think it's a medical campus.
yeah.
And they did it exclusively for medical campus, so there's actually no permanent residence. It's just them. They did a PID for a commercial property, and they're paying for their own,
Because I was going to say that.
So in theory, you could set it up so that commercial, if there's no residential, could go to a higher level because you would presume that the business is just basically taxing themselves to pay for that debt.
Using
And
it
so-
as a tool to get a cheaper.
Sure.
Yep.
They get, it's a.
I'm for commercial, whatever. I don't know if that.
What?
Well, real quick, Mayor Miller had a
An
good
exception.
point. You can do 0.3 to point, and then if they show a true regional need, like major freeway being built, then they can go up to 0.5 or, whatever, but that was something.
I'm okay with the 0.5. without any of the extra. But again, that's the
0.5?
concept for all of us, yeah.
So Stephen, I thought I heard you say 0.3 to 0.5. I don't know who said it first, Jim or Stephen.
Stephen did. I'm 0.3, 0.5 also.
0.3 to 5.
I need to think about it some more, so however you write it, but.
Here's what I'll do is-
Sort of like the idea of 0.5, and then if the business that doesn't
Then
have
they
any
can-
residential, they can even go to 0.7.
Exactly, I like
Yeah, and
it.
I'd be okay with the business going high.
Because if they want to use it as a tool to get better financing, then that's their choice, because
And
no
we re-
residents.
And we
can-
remove the acreage on commercial. Or you're going to
Well,
still.
the acreage, I think it still needs to be a pretty well-established product, because you don't want to be you don't want like every restaurant to do this.
Who administers collection and tax on PID? Is that the city?
That's the county.
Oh, okay.
It's a tax rate. So again, once you
Their problem.
once you cross the PID policy standard, you create the governing document, and then they get created as their own government taxing entity. And so they would then be dealing with.
To Michael's point with the business, if you go to our downtown area where it's gonna all be businesses, that's not gonna be 500 acres. I would be okay if a business-only focused area was maybe a smaller portion.
I'd be okay with, maybe do some
Yeah.
research. I mean, even 25
It could be a different tax financing tool. So like, maybe some sort of a CRDA or something like that.
That's right, we have CRD.
Can you tie a PID to a zoning area?
That's what he was
Specific
just
zone?
saying,
Oh, is that what
basically.
you're saying?
CRD. But it,
Well, but
But it
again,
does-
think policy, not.
but it does, because it's connecting, we want to connect a bigger road between two major
But
industries.
if we can incentivize us to bring that development, that's a win for the city.
So that they can look at it as a way to get cheaper money to build
Commercial,
commercial,
jobs.
an area that's
shopping.
not really ready for commercial.
Commercial downtown is probably looking TIF than they would be PID. So
that's fair.
if I could, where does the council land? So on residential, I'm hearing the 0.5.
But real quick, sorry, but in that our new downtown, we have a school district, like the university district potentially. So there is some, maybe the TIF is the commercial side, and then the medical plaza or the campus is the PID, but yeah.
What did I hear, 7 on commercial? Now, if it's in the same zone, I don't know that you could do 2 separate ones, but if it was a standalone commercial, you probably could do that. So again, we'll have to look at that and see what that looks
Come
like.
back with the recommendation.
Are you okay if we draft some language around what we've discussed, and then we'll bring that back? Okay. Where do you stand on the retainer, 5,000 or 2,000 initial application fee?
I was fine with 2,000, but
In both documents, it says essentially they're going to pay whatever the costs are, because the 2,000 or 5,000, we look at that as like that goes to the city, because when you start talking time of city manager, finance director, I mean, that it adds, it's a lot of work. There's a decent amount of work that goes with this. So it's just to offset that. It's not, and it really.
Mark, I would say we start with 5, have staff keep track of it like you've done on others.
We can always lower it.
And if we're wrong, we'll lower it. If we're wrong, we'll raise it.
I would actually say 5's fine, because we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
I'm all choked up over this discussion.
Audrey's at 2 still?
I'm at 2, but that's, if everybody else is 5, that's great.
I'm okay at 5.
5, okay. Stephen?
I would like to look at it the other way, where if we need to raise it after we've tracked our hours, we can, but if
Yeah.
But it's
that's what
harder to
they.
get money once the hours are done.
Yeah,
It's harder
but
to
yeah,
get money back.
that's,
Yeah.
again, it's,
Yeah.
Say we're lowering our fees.
$5,000
Easier to get money back.
is kind of like their application fee. They send you the.
This is the application.
So then,
I'll say you'll eat up $5,000 really quick in a 30-day review. I mean, attorneys, you probably need Kevin's crew to be looking at it, and we all know attorneys bill a lot, whatever. $5,000 will be eat up quickly.
Yeah.
Like, that's 10 hours worth
I just don't
of
want
staff
to,
time.
I don't want to subsidize development any more than we already are.
So both policies have the applicants responsible for paying for any outside consulting work or whatever, so those are consistent. One of the policy questions is, we've talked a little bit about this on different occasions, and again, I'm just going to jump into the meat of it. Do we want to prohibit PID fees being used for impact fee
Yes.
eligible reimbursement projects?
Yep.
So that we don't have the
There's no double dipping.
Okay.
This is what we dealt with
Mountain View
Wildflower
program. Yeah.
and the Mountain View, and we really worked hard to prevent double dipping, and Steven's going right where I was going. And so a project like this is not going to be a problem with being able to keep those separate because there's enough money going around.
Well, and we can structure it so that there's no double dipping or that the reimbursement goes back to the people that have paid the fee.
That just gets
proportionally.
messy.
It does get messy, and that's where, Brian lives in a home for 5 years and then he moves away. How do we refund his proportion?
Well, would you say if the impact fees came in, it was to that, it goes to some type of sinking fund to pay for the.
Reduce the debt?
Yeah, to reduce the debt.
That, so if it was something that's impact eligible, well, the impact fees, instead of going to X developer, would go to a sinking fund to pay off the debt.
So my only concern on that, from a policy standpoint, is do we then limit their ability to refinance the debt? Because we don't want the impact fees to reduce the debt and then have them refinance the debt and take out more debt, in that regard.
I'd
So
rather just make it so that impact fee eligible cannot,
Yeah,
has
that's
to be
easier.
completely separate, and I think it's just cleaner.
That's easier.
I think it's just cleaner
Okay.
not to.
very good.
Two different transactions.
They both talk about landowner consent. The only difference is the Gilmore Bell doesn't require it before the hearing date. The Lions policy wants 100% sign off before we even jump into it to make sure that you don't have people withdrawing and things of that nature. So it's a slight modification. Brian, do you have any other thoughts on that?
It just, in most cases, it shouldn't make any difference at all. Honestly, in most cases, it is one or two people. It's if you have 10 people, you're not going to get all of them on the same page on anything. So you're literally talking about, hey, I've got a ton of land, you got a ton of land, let's do this, or it's like somebody's bought all the land and
Like Jacob's Ranch or
it's their
Fox
big
Hollow
thing.
will never be able to do this.
Yeah.
Maybe. So the policies aren't so different. We'll just kind of go with that. Zions is looking for a full narrative and more detailed documentation. And so if you go back and look at it, not necessarily for tonight, because there's a lot of micro details, but the Zions policy says, hey, we want a little bit more robust detail, whereas the Gilmore Bell, as it's crafted, is, hey, we want more conceptual. And so again, I worry that you'd be able to make the financial decisions without more clarity and
So,
granular.
Find a balance.
Can I
Yeah, I don't like it.
just say, like, when we went after our water bonds and we've gone after our other bonds and we've gone back Standard & Poor to get our ratings, I don't think we should do this at a less standard, no roses, clouds, conceptual. Let's start to dial it in. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I lean more to the Zion side.
Find a
We're
balance.
talking millions of dollars on a pipe dream or a plan.
I don't think it needs to be a full vetted, development agreement and all that. I mean, like with all the land zoned and figured out.
Yeah.
But I agree with Jim. I don't want it to be this, I don't want Summit County, right?
We'll do a mixed-use development with a lot of pretty amenities. There's your proposal.
Yeah, I want to kind of dialed in. We're approving it. We're going to do this park. We're going to do this road. These are what it's for.
So,
I like that.
so we'll work on the Zion's language, and then if you feel it's too restrictive, we can always ramp it back. So take a look at the Zion's language
Pull it
in
back
the interim,
already. I can
and
do
we'll
it.
see.
When I read
Yeah,
Zions,
it
it felt
was-
very restrictive.
Yeah.
Okay.
We felt that it wasn't a big imposition on the developers because for them to go get financing, they have to get investors who are going to invest in bonds that are usually not rated. Their investors are buying non-rated bonds and they're buying it on the come because there's nothing in the ground. And so they will want to see the pro forma and the absorption rates and the projections and when is this coming online? When do we start vertical? When does,
Right.
and how that's all going to work because that's how they figure out how comfortable they are being
Asking
repaid.
for is what's going to get the best rate.
So it's just saying you got to have a little bit of that before you
I
fire
feel like the
everything up.
Zions, I wrote this down, explicit findings, critical infrastructure, I don't even know how you define that. So I felt like that was way too restrictive.
Okay.
Right,
And there might be parts in there that are.
We can ramp it back.
And also, it talked about multi-jurisdictional benefit. Are we looking into making sure it's a benefit to other cities?
I think it's just saying whatever the benefits are, let's just know what it all is.
Okay,
and
the multi-jurisdictional was kind of.
if someone was gigantic on the border between Saratoga and
Also have
something else, or
jurisdictional, you have the Alpine School District, they have the sewer district, so there's,
you have UDOT, you got everybody who crisscrosses.
I think
and
that is a little bit too prescriptive.
Yeah, and then it says no exception will be considered without such evidence. That pretty much is like death to the PID.
yeah.
We can ramp that back.
I-
So,
I would say I agree, though, if they're serious about it and they really want it, they're gonna have to start crafting bond documentation anyway. And no one's going to buy their bond on the street. It doesn't have any of that detail. So why in the world would we approve something when no one's gonna buy the bond?
it's a good call.
Sorry, like, that, it's insanity to say, here's a conceptual, we don't know if it's gonna fund roads or swimming pool or whatever it may be.
Well, and the better detail, the better the rate. And we're after.
I'm not arguing with Audrey, I'm just talking about my opinion.
And the smaller work session, just like.
So the next bullet point that jumped out to me was the Zions document disallows affiliate contractors without prior city approval, and the Gilmore Bell doesn't talk about that. Again, they do need to follow state procurement. There needs to do that, and so that was one of those. I'm not sure how you all feel.
What it is again?
It disallows affiliate contractors without prior city approval. So, for example, developer Brian can't have his construction company winning all the bids for projects and things of that nature. They would need to competitively bid, and they would
Like the state process.
They'd have to follow, the competitive process for those bond proceeds, those bond projects, so that it's meeting state procurement.
Pockets with inflated bids.
Yeah, that's where it's going. Again, pro forma revenue projections, 3-year operations. It's more restrictive than the Gilmore Bell. Procurement plans, things of that nature. So take a look at that. Those are all kind of in that same section in the Zions policy, and if you have questions or concerns, we can modify that. Minimum project bond size. So the Zions policy was suggesting it's got to exceed 10 million in infrastructure cost. For 500 acres, 10 million is going to be a drop in the bucket. Are you good with that, or do you want to set a higher minimum threshold of proceeds?
What's a minimum amount that's cost effective to bond for?
You know what? I can honestly say Provo did one recently that they borrowed like $3 million. Doing the math, I had a hard time getting to where I saw it being really, really super necessary. But around $10 million, you start to have some benefit that's decently demonstrable. So
I don't know how you could even justify 3 million with all the
well,
bonds.
so the part of the tool and part of all of the economic development tools that the state puts out there is we used to do financings 20 years ago where a developer wanted financing and you would need to see all of their income statements and assets of the principals, and you'd need to see all of this stuff, and they wouldn't want to give you any of that information. So now we have tools that allow a development to take place where what they are pledging is in the box of the development they're doing. They're pledging the land. They're pledging the increment that comes off the land. They're pledging a property tax that's being assessed on the land. And so as a developer, it allows you to compartmentalize your risk. And so, just like you might have a condominiumized project the developer does where they've got this senior living facility here and this here, and they've got different investors and different things going on with each of those. Similarly here, even if they didn't get an advantageous rate, I believe you would still see a lot of developers who would want to do things like this because it allows them to say, this isn't my balance sheet that's at risk. Here's a project. I hope the project works really well. We think it's going to work really well. But if everything goes south, I don't lose my company. I don't lose, it's the project. And so it's a transfer of risk to investors that are used to investing in high yield bonds, unrated bonds. And so they are the ones that are taking the risk on that as long as it's there. And so that's kind of what the state is facilitating. It's the idea that it makes it easier for developers to get in and do things and transfer some of the risk from the taxpayers to the developer who bought the bonds and hopes that they're going to pay. Or not the developer, the investor who bought the bonds and hopes they will pay.
I don't know. Mark, do you think it would limit, I don't want to limit anything. Is there like a clause we could put in there saying 10 million unless otherwise directed by the city council or something like that? I don't know if we want to.
Sure.
Right?
I think
you actually probably want that because these are always going to be legislative decisions. And the moment you have it so restrictive that
It becomes
you
a
know,
mid.
A plus B equals C, and they can't do anything else, then you're almost converting it into an administrative.
I think a number of you have
Then
expressed that
within
you
reason, they can ask for exceptions.
you don't want the staff report to be saying, you can't do this, sorry. You
Right.
know, like that's not what you
That's
want. You
exactly
want-
right.
Yeah.
So do we have a term on length of bonds? The state maximum is 40 years.
30 years max.
30, yeah.
But our bond in the city is 20, right? Is that-
The most we've done as a city is 20.
What's the average statewide on munis?
So for muni bonds, you have some entities that, you know, like Summit County doesn't go past 15. You have a number that, it depends on the type of project. Student housing bonds for any of our higher education institutions, they are going 30 years.
Yeah.
But most cities are doing 20. 20 is a good number. The only caveat I'd have is that because there's nothing in the ground and there's no tax revenue coming off of it when they borrow, a lot of times it's 4 or 5 years or 6 years of carrying capitalized interest to get to where they're actually earning revenue.
So I did see a stat that 95% of PIDs right now are at 30%, at 30 years.
Yeah, on PIDs, I believe that most of them are done at 30 years.
Okay.
So can you, for my education, how does that, so if you have your mill rate, your rate,
Yep.
but you have your length of time, that affects the payment too, right?
Yes.
So how does,
Payment will be higher for the,
Shorter duration.
so your mills are at this,
A lot of bonds. you
In
know,
many cases, the payments will grow over time. And with PID bonds, if they don't have enough to pay you, that doesn't automatically mean the bonds are in default. There's provisions in the language where, you know, if development's slowed 2 years, and so you're not getting the payment you thought you were gonna get, but it's still coming along, you might get paid, but just late. And that's another one of the things
so
that
this
an
is just from my
investor
understanding.
accepts.
If we need to take this offline, we can, but, so you have, let's say your 5 mil is your max. And we go from 20 years and your payment is, those examples you're using here, is that tied to a fixed term limit or time?
No, this is just the assessment in a one-year snapshot.
Yeah, it's not tied to a bonding amount, so obviously, if you allow them to go out 30 years, they're going to be able to borrow more than if they go out 20
Okay,
years.
so they
Because
can
they'll
borrow
have
more.
more years to repay it
mill is-
after.
The mill is fixed, but the amount can fluctuate, which would affect
Yes.
time.
And in the Zions policy, they actually have the mill that you show it from a transparency standpoint at $100,000. So then someone can say, oh, I have an $800,000 home, multiply it by 8, I'm good, as opposed to a 500 set
And I
number.
noticed that's in the notice too, it's based on 100,000 for the many.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I like that transparency for me personally, the 100,000, because it's easy to multiply. It's harder to multiply by 1.4 or 1.25
Yeah.
when you're dealing with the 500, because most homes are 700, 800,000, right? So at the 100,000, I think it's just more transparent, because for me, this is my big thing. It's all about transparency to the home buyer, that they can easily understand what this is going to do to impact them when they're closing on the house, and they have to decide whether that's okay, they want to live in this neighborhood versus going down to Jacob's Ranch, which is just down the hill. Or they might want to move into Fox Hollow, or they might want to move into Wander, or they might move to Lehigh. So the transparency is very key. So for me, it'd be 100,000. And then
30 years.
I think that 10 million is
Yep.
about right.
Yeah.
And I think 30 years.
But 30 years
I like
is
the 30
traditional
years.
law too, right? I mean,
The 30 years, because I mean, I think that the project will be 5 to 7 years before they're even close to being able to, in terms of infrastructure and when they're building, they'll be deferring interest.
So on that, and Brian, you can kind of help clarify this. What is possible is that they don't issue the bonds, but they carry some of that cost. And then 5 years down the road, I believe they don't have to issue the debt until 10 years, I think, per state
Yeah.
statute. And so theoretically, they could carry that debt, and then they would reimburse themselves with the bond proceeds, which is allowable. But you'd be going 30 years from the time that happened, or the time they actually issued the debt. And so again,
No, I think it should be 30 years from when they're
authorized?
authorized.
Okay. So
Because then that way it's not 40 years.
So 30 years from PID creation.
Yeah, so when, from PID approval, 30 years, because it might take them they have up to 10 years, then that's now 20.
Okay.
and then that brings up refinance. If refinance, does that 30 years start over?
Again, Brian, what are the refinance terms?
So refinancing is interesting because There are two ways to look at it. If they borrow right now and there's nothing in the ground, they're getting a bad rate. If they refinance 10 years from now, when they've got all the hotels built and everything's in, then it's money. It's like a property tax bond because it's money good because you have the development that's already there. And so what you could see is someone says, okay, we borrowed $100 million. We built this incredible project. We got crummy rates because of the development bond. And then we came back and we refinanced our 7% at 3%. But instead of lowering the payments that people were making, we just kept the same levy. We borrowed another $65 million to build a parking garage, or and so that's where there's a policy.
I thought that we actually said that they couldn't borrow more money.
That's one of the things that you can put in the policy.
That's it's in both, I believe.
That if you refinance,
They can't pull out more money
yeah.
without a 100% vote and the approval of the city council.
Which would include the citizens voting in there?
The 100% of the households plus the city council.
So refinancing,
Refinancing can
so
lower
if they're refinancing to lower
their interest rate.
the interest rate or the duration of the bond, to shrink the duration of the bond, you'd be okay with that?
They just can't exceed the 30 years from
But if they're
creation.
going to increase the bond amount or increase the length of that,
They have to 100%.
But if they refinance, be clear, say at year 20 and it's 30 years, I don't want them to have another 30 years at refinance.
they can't refinance to extend the date.
Right.
Right, so I mean, that kind of locks them in, and which I'm good with, because the market's only going to support certain length of bonds. It's
Yep.
gonna be some oddball 7.5 years or
Brian, could
So really
you
at
help
year
us
10,
craft
they're
some
gonna
language to very specifically?
5, 10, 15.
Yeah, somewhere in
You're
there.
done at 15.
So Mark, a lot of the infrastructure this can be used for, what's the lifespan on it?
So that's an interesting question. Like, for example, let's say it's asphalt. Asphalt typically has a life of, say, 20 years. Somewhere around 15, it starts to degrade, and you've all seen me draw the graph of
But real
graph
quick,
with
but it's city, most of it's going to be dedicated to
it's going to be dedicated to the city, and so we'll be
We're on the
taking
hook.
on the
Our
pavement
tax-
management,
yeah.
yes. But like, for example, not impact fee eligible, but they're building a normal neighborhood. They're going to put in the water lines, the sewer lines, and the regular infrastructure. The water or sewer lines are probably 60 to 100 years.
And that's-
Some of the
that's-
product
but that's
that's the now plastic product, we don't know what that life cycle is because we've just not gotten there yet. But it's probably going to exceed the 30 years.
But that's all to the city anyway.
Right.
Because,
Right.
I mean, I think that if it's, yeah.
So
Keeping them separate from impact fee eligible, because really they're going to use their money for.
Correct.
The parks and the other things, yeah,
Right.
And the roads.
their internal private roads. Non-impact fee
Maximum,
eligible.
maximum term of bonds, we've got that.
They're gonna do-
Refunding
they're
to
gonna do-
reduce costs for shortened maturity.
Because that's not impact fee.
Few questions I have about,
Please.
so the one, the governing document shall provide that unless waived in writing by the city, the district shall use the municipal advisor and bond council of the city as municipal advisor and bond and disclosure council. So is that what our intention is?
It's whatever we decide it to be.
Because I think my only thing with that is that from the very beginning, you said you don't want the residents to think it's a city, you don't want this and that, you don't want us to have anything to do with it technically, and I feel like that puts us more in the middle of it than you wanted in the first
Right.
place.
So this was, again, more of a first draft
Yeah,
of what
so
it
that was
looks.
just my question,
yeah.
because I know that kind of conflicted from what we talked about.
So one of the challenges that PIDs have seen, and I'll let Brian kind of throw more onto this, is the state recently amended the code to require financial advisors to be involved sooner. And we're seeing them being brought in to be a rubber stamp on the very end, instead of truly acting as municipal advisors. Jonathan and I talked quite a bit about this, and so we feel like there probably needs to be some language that makes sure that the financial advisor is involved from day one in working with the consult, or the applicant, so that they're not just brought in last minute. And Brian, fill in the gaps.
I guess I'd say, so the two sides of that are bond counsel. Your bond counsel, I think for your bonds is Gilmore Bell, correct? Gilmore Bell is currently the only attorney firm, the bulge bracket attorney firm that is doing PID bond counsel work. So every single PID that is done in the state of Utah, they are the bond attorney for. So that's
a fact.
It kind of is what it is. There are a couple of other large, Chapman and Cutler's in a large firm, and they focus on energy, they focus on different things, and they just looked at it and said, you know what, we're not doing those. On the financial advisor side, the one side of it says, well, it's a developer, it's their project, can they make it work? We created it, now it's them, go. But at the same time, you're talking about all these terms here that you care very much about because they impact your residents incredibly, and so if you're paying your underwriter 2% of the transaction instead of 1.5% of the transaction, the fees are very large, and so that's hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that is out the door on certain costs, and so depending on how the way the transaction is set up and the way things like that are, I guess, policed and approached, that can help the transaction be more efficient for
The citizens.
for the citizens. And so while we'd always say for years, we've said, hey, every transaction should have a municipal advisor. And so when they put municipal advisor in state code for PIDs, we thought, oh, that's great. And then the comeback from the other side was, well, we'll bring a municipal advisor in on the day that we price the bonds, and they will sign a certificate that says you got an okay deal on the bonds, and that's pretty much the role. So that's kind of what most of the PIDs have in terms of municipal advisor involvement.
And just to be fair, in 2019, when this policy came forward, it was largely being pushed by developers and by financial, underwriters and people that are in the business of making money off of selling bonds. And so the fact that 150 PIDs have been created and issued, many, many millions of dollars worth of debt, do you want to put more controls in place to protect the future citizens? That's the policy
I
question.
guess my thing is just that perceived connection between the PID and the city, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how we do that. Because again, that's been a concern of yours. Again, we've talked about it, we started talking about PIDs. And so now that we're going a different way, I'm just a clarification of how, what should we do there?
What is the state talking about? Are they going to make a change to policy on this? Are they going to say they have to be within the
They're
first?
required to be involved, but currently we're just seeing it be a rubber stamp at the end
I'm saying, are they
that
gonna
doesn't
make
help the
Are they
residents.
make a change? Are they going to amend code?
Yeah.
So, I don't know if from day one seems a little excessive, but I think making sure that there is when a PID is being requested by
Or
the
notice.
city, that there's been a municipal finance review.
Can we put some language, and I don't know what it's going to look like. Great question, Audrey. Can we put some language in place that gives the financial advisor some teeth to be involved early to make sure that it's really the best rate for the citizen? And it doesn't necessarily have to be our financial advisor, to your point.
Right.
But what we're trying to do is protect and make sure that the people that are paying this tax for a long period of time are not paying fees that they shouldn't pay or not making a bad financial transaction.
Because I think when the initial review's done, not necessarily day one as it all, but that initial review before it comes to the work session, as a council, I would want to know, this has been looked at, people aren't getting extra, by our advisor, not take my word on it. Because you just said, some of these are 1% or 2.5%. Be hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in fees. And that's something that I would want at that work session to know, hey, this is set up right. Fair.
Set up right, but still the city, still saying that they could, the city was involved in this. Our financial advisor said, it's okay if we put this extra tax on here at this amount or something like that, right? Again, it's just a big concern.
Yeah.
Because it's.
Well, in the Zion's policy, there is some language that says, in addition to them having to provide the documents to their homeowners and things of that nature, that they keep a copy with the city. Maybe that's good policy, maybe that's not. Maybe it's going a line too far because we don't want to necessarily be involved. I know that the state, when they adopted PIDs, were like, hey, cities, we're giving you cover. We're letting these be something that you don't have any responsibility for. But the problem I have, or the concern that I have, and we've talked about this before, is it transparent for the residents? And so do we use the Zion's policy and make them keep a copy of it in their recorder's office just so that it's there for public review? It would be theoretically in state places. But again, where do we hold the tax? Where do they hold their meetings? For example, do we require them to hold their meetings here at a location in Saratoga Springs, or do they get to hold their PID meeting and their board member meetings up in Salt Lake City? Or wherever.
Be within the city of the
It
PIDs.
does, yeah.
So those are the kinds of policy questions that maybe we could take a stab at that would put some parameters, if you're comfortable. And then as we continue to kind of go through this, we can say, look, until residents are living in the area, maybe they can have it offsite in, say, their attorney's office in Salt
I think you
Lake.
should always have it within the city of where the pit is.
In the city.
Okay.
It should always be within the city. Even if there's no resident, how come they can't reserve a room in our new city hall?
Yeah. So those are some like side policy conversations of, from a transparency standpoint, yes, they're their own entity, but if they're conducting business up at an attorney's office in Salt Lake City, no one's going to make it.
Yeah.
Public
I think it's just
meeting,
good
it's going to be over in
practice.
5 minutes and,
Short travel distance for residents.
Yeah.
okay,
So I have one question.
please.
500,000 when it's it's the assessment value at the county, right?
Right.
It's if it's your primary residence, they take 35%?
It's 45% exemption, so you're being taxed on like $250,000.
Does PIDS follow that same?
Yes, yeah, if it's a single-family home that is a primary residence, then you have the same exemption.
So PIDS for investment properties would be more?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Going back, I
Well,
do,
that's only if it's like a second home that no one's living. If they're renting it out, they qualify for the residential exemption.
So if it's more than a 30-day lease, then they qualify for the exemption. If it's a short-term rental, then it would be the 100% assessed
Okay,
value.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
so just going back to use of an advisor early on, I like the mayor's point. I'm supportive of that. Due to conflict of interest, I am not going to comment on use of city advisors, so whatever needs to be there.
Okay.
I'd add just on that, the way that we approach it is, one of the things I love about, I go to a school district where they're having a public hearing on their bond election, and everybody hates the fact that there's a $22 million pool and there's an $8 million track, and why do we need this? And they ask us questions, we say, hey, listen, we help them get the best rate that they can get, and that's it. We are not the politicians, we don't have a political dog in the fight. If you want to finance a project that Jonathan Ward thinks is dumb, he will still help you get the best rate and do it the best way that you can.
But I'm looking at comes to that work session. Are the fees fair? Are the
Yeah.
rates fair? Are the terms fair compared to the current bond market?
Yeah, it's
None
not
of them follow
it's not a
the
project
Jefferson
endorsement or a,
daily.
like stamp of approval
I guess
because
my
we're.
thing is our financial advisor, or is it their financial advisor that we're asking to come in sooner? That's my question. Like, why can't it be their financial advisor so we don't have?
The only question I would have is just making sure that there's not a conflict of interest.
Yeah, okay.
I would prefer it be ours, just like we have our engineer versus their engineer look at things.
Is there consensus on this?
I think that before it comes before the work session, I don't know if it needs to be exhaustive, but I would like our financial advisor to have looked at it so that if we have questions, that they would be able to answer those questions for us. And I think before the actual approval of the PID, I would want a full review. And that
So-
could be from both sides or whoever.
So they bring potentially their financial advisor on
But our financial advisor.
before the creation of the district?
Yes.
Is
Because
that-
they will want to. I don't think they have to, but they're going to want to have somebody who can rebuttal ours.
Are you okay if we put language in the policy that demonstrates the need for that financial advisor early intervention, for lack of a better term? If we put some language on there, it'll be draft.
Something that's encouraging. I mean, I don't want to require it, but if they want to allow my financial advisor to have the full say on whether their project is good or bad, then that's their stupidity, not mine.
Okay.
They should absolutely have their own financial advisor involved earlier. Because basically, they're not going to be able to just do a stamp and approval, because our financial advisor is going to be able to say, this
Well,
seems like good terms.
And again, I don't, it's kind of that public-private placement conversation. If you're doing a private placement, you're going to use an underwriter, and that underwriter, they're going to help with whatever deal they can versus is it going to be sold publicly? And I don't know, PIDs, are they being sold?
Yep, they're being sold as non-rated bonds generally. And so what you have though is you'll have they're very long lead time. Some of these are years in the making before you get a PID application. They've been working on proving things, and so you'll have one of the underwriting firms that will kind of say, hey, I think they've got a big project going. I will help them up front, and then I'm in. And then when it comes time to do the financing, the ship has sailed, and so nobody's going to come in and say, hey, I'm the municipal advisor who's here, and I'd like to cut the underwriter's fee in half. Now that you guys have done several years worth of work on this project together and you're all best buddies, there's basically no value at that point.
I mean,
So that's the only issue is that, if the municipal advisor is brought on, really far down the road, then
I would like to see it sooner than later. Michael and I have done it quite a while. If you go back to the engineering, there's one engineer that every time we see, we're like, oh, Jeremy, what's your thoughts? Because a lot of times he's like, well, it was tailored to fit what they were trying to push or the narrative or whatever.
Let's laugh. We also had somebody actually trying to do a development that completely went bankrupt and screwed us with another major project on a project that we approved today. They didn't win, but we have that history. We know.
That's why I would like to see our advisor brought in a little sooner. They can bring theirs in 6 weeks before they start, the day of, whatever. But at that initial point, I would love to have our review.
And I agree with that. They would be a little silly, to be honest, if they hired another advisor, because they're gonna be paying both fees, so.
Yeah.
Can we put in here like a fee, like to cover the city's out-of-pocket costs, like hiring the financial advisors?
It's already included.
That's
Oh, it
the
is, but
there's a
okay,
reimbursement
so-
of city costs.
Yeah, the application fee
5,000 is the deposit
plus-
plus all the things the city incurs.
The out-of-pocket.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we've spent, some time on this. Kind of, now that we've had a chance to kind of talk about it, do you want to keep going through kind of micro details? Is there details that we haven't talked about? Are you kind of comfortable just taking a look at the Zion's policy and reaching out to us to say, hey, I'm concerned about this, or we can get that?
Right now,
or
you're working to put anything from Zion's that we maybe still want to put into the other.
to put into the Gilmore Bell, so that it's basically the foundation of the Gilmore Bell with the policies that are, a little bit more,
Important to us.
framed in. Yeah.
Just in terms of timing, I really would like to have Jim, Stephen, this is.
Sure.
Stephen, please, he actually does understand the bond market because he is in that and he understands it. But we don't have a session the first Tuesday in November.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have basically.
It would be the third week of November. We have, like I said, Kevin finished it Monday mid-morning, and we still haven't done a thorough review of it. But with the direction that you've given us tonight, we probably could turn that around and potentially have it back to you, still as a rough draft, but at the next council meeting, that then you could take a look at.
Is that going to be you're bringing it as a policy item?
We could do it as a policy item, and then you can table it if you're not comfortable with it, or we could.
I actually think that because I think we've had a very good conversation here and I think we're close.
I think if we can bring it back and have the option to approve, sorry.
Nope, I cut you off.
I was just saying, if we can bring it back and have the option, if we decide to table it and work on it some more, that's great, because we've done that with things we don't want to write from the dais.
I think, I had one item, I think that it's pretty substantive, I think we need to address. The other thing isn't substantive, but I want to bring it up, and maybe it's already addressed, is I don't want them to be able to, okay, we've approved the formation of PID, sit on it for 10 years and 10 years bond. I think there needs to be, you got X amount of time to
I think that
execute
was
this thing.
back, because I was 20 years, but when Michael said 30 years from the day we approve it is the max length of bond you have.
Right.
So if you sit on it 10 years, you can do a 20-year.
But here's where I wouldn't want is, okay, you got whatever, half the homes or 25% of the homes that's had no payment for 10 years. And then all of a sudden, boom, here's a new bond, we're just layering it all on top of you, and we are now recovering our costs from 10 years ago.
So what would you like that authorization to look like? 5 years from PID creation?
I would say 5 years with an option of like a 1-year extension, like we have stuff like that.
Yeah, and I still think that their title documents should still say that this has the incumbency of, this land is, your house could
Will
have
have a tax on it.
a tax of this much, potentially,
Right.
you know what I mean? So they still
Yeah.
have that clarification, but still have a time limit.
So I don't want those first buyers to qualify, then in 4 years get hit with another $2,000 a year and be like, I lost my house.
And actually, that's some of the kerfluffle that's going on up in Salt Lake County is I think it's the Olympia. They've seen their first tax increase, I think it was like $900 or something like that this year, and it's gonna only go up. It's gonna just keep cranking up. And so to your point, Stephen, we'll try and build some language.
I think if they can't get their stuff together in 5 years and like have even started the infrastructure,
So-
they probably need to.
Is this, this is my ignorance on my part, maybe. the bond may not be issued in the 5 years, but we know what the mill levy is going to be. Can there be a fund set up so they just start collecting on the first homes so that people know it's there? It's going to hit. Is that, I don't know how that part of the law is written. I've never
That
thought.
sounds like a legal question. I don't know off the top of my head whether that you can just start
Can we
assessing.
look at that?
Tax and.
Yeah, so
Actually, I think that's.
you're talking about a tax on the sinking fund. So how that would work is let's just say Brian, landowner, would start paying a mill levy on his property value
Day one.
day one.
Day one.
So in 5 years, I'm not stuck with an extra $150 a month. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Yeah.
that way they already
So-
know what their mill levy is.
Yeah, when they issue the bond in 5 years, that just gets paid towards what, if the bond was going to be
Is
10
that
million.
possible to do
We've
that?
reduced it by 100,000.
Brian?
I guess I'd say one of the issues is, when you create the PID, if they issue a bond 6 months later and there is still zero value there, whatever, I mean, it's chump change that they're throwing towards paying the mill levy because there's really nothing that's in the ground that's been assessed that's worth anything. And so it really isn't until it starts to ramp up and you can sell a home to somebody and then they're going to be paying it on the full value of the home. But before that home is built, there's not a means of collecting because there's no value.
Yeah, so I mean, my whole thing is, sorry, it's somewhat related. But I just wouldn't want someone to have a home there for 9 years, then all of a sudden have a 5% levy on it.
Can we address that in the transparency section? And make it so that they begin getting transparency notices effective as soon as occupancy happens with the home or something like that?
Sure, but I would prefer to have a time limit, and it's like you got 5 years to get the,
I just worked with the average consumer long enough to know if they don't know it up front and plan for it at year 5, it's going to kill some of them.
Oh, I 100%.
So I think at title, they need to be made aware of what.
At
they're-
title,
And
exactly.
then I think the 5-year, what Steven's talking about makes.
So I would say, take a look at the Zions because they do have a heightened transparency component over the Gilmore Bell. But what, Stephen, can I work with you specifically on what this language would look like?
No. Yeah, that's fine.
You asked for it. I need to.
Question, oh, go ahead, Stephen.
You have your other side of it.
Oh, just the other thing is sorry, Audrey, we talked about the size, but just because they're 500 acres, if they're not bringing anything to the city,
That doesn't mean we have to do.
I think we ought to outline some general parameters.
Regional component.
Yeah, the regional components. We haven't talked about that.
Okay, thank
I
you.
think that's a pretty big.
We've talked about all of these things, debt limits, mid-max. Do we want a max debt limit that you're willing to consider?
That's the
min is 10.
I think that's dictated by the mill rate because it will only support so much.
Okay.
And the duration of the time.
Do you want the developer or the district to have eminent domain powers?
No.
Nope.
I'm seeing a bunch of head shakes there. No eminent domain. Transparency, we talked about that a little bit. Capital projects impact fees, we talked about that. Sorry, I'm just going to stand up here.
Debt refinancing, we talked about that.
We talked about them all.
Debt refinancing limitations.
I mean, it
That's
should be
it.
good. It's just,
Can you start it over, Sarah?
as long as this go,
Past regional.
it's quiet.
Okay, so regional significance, what you had talked about in the council meeting were like Mountain View corridor connection, open space conservation, preservation of open space with
Non-mining.
non-mining, with mining restrictions. So basically deed restriction on open space above the development so that it can never get mined and it can never be developed.
That's the huge value. That's the regional
Yeah.
value.
Those are the things that you guys had talked about, major offsite infrastructure, roads, open space preservation, emphasis that benefits should be clear and measurable to the city. That was.
And open to the city. Like it can't be an HOA park that's gated.
So open to the city.
Mark, can I pause really quick? So that beeping you heard is a noise I recognize. It's his pump. He's out of insulin. So he probably needs to leave pretty soon.
And I'm fine, but I think it's gonna beep every 5 minutes or 3 minutes until.
I just have one more
Okay,
question.
so
We addressed this now.
I just want to make
Or
sure
not.
he's taken care
So
of.
there's something there saying that, I just wrote my notes right here, not sure the purpose of keeping the developer from purchasing their own bonds if desired. What is the,
So this is something that happened in Colorado, and basically they were buying their own debt, and then they were subrogating it, and then they were refinancing it, and they were just increasing the tax rate on it, or the interest rate on it. And so the question is do you try and keep these things separated so that they're not buying their own debt and buying it at higher interest rates?
Yeah, that's the issue, is, you buy, you'd sell it in the market for 7%, but you buy your own bonds at 15%, and that's a pretty great investment. And so it's just kind of keeping those things separated.
So the residents, basically, if you're buying your own debt at a higher interest rate, it's just making the mill levy that the residents have to pay higher. It's just jacking up the price. It's artificially inflating the price.
And providing a benefit to some, because it's not a market transaction. It's not a market, it's not a fair market value transaction if you're taking a 15% interest rate on bonds that would have been 7 or 8. And so they're, you could say they're enriching themselves on the back of your taxpayers because they didn't take it to market and just got to set themselves up with a sweet investment.
That's what happened in Colorado.
Well, that makes sense to me. I mean, it's a double dipping kind of approach.
And so to that end, a couple of other things. We talked about roadway enhancements, right-of-way dedication for future corridor preservation and things of that nature may be something that would trigger that. I threw in some goals that are in our economic development policy. So like, for example, some businesses that actually create living wage jobs and things of that nature. And that's just more of a throwback to, there may be a developer that comes in or a project that comes in that is bringing with it some natural benefit that hits the economic development buttons that might be something that would be persuasive.
And when it comes to the business side of it, I'm much more willing to let them tax themselves. If they want to, that's why we're willing to make the mill levy higher and everything, because,
Yeah. I put regional park or open space contributions. So for example, offsite contributions. Again, do we want, we don't want to necessarily take over parks that are bad HOA parks and they don't want to maintain it, so they're giving it to us.
But I'm okay if you go to Patriot Park because the impact they're going to put on the already, as Michael pointed out, with rec and stuff and library use, if they're making investments towards that to offset their community, that's a community benefit.
well, and I would rather not have 15 pocket parks in their development. You know how much I hate pocket parks. And I'd rather have that money go to the expansion of Patriot Park.
Well, and let's theoretically say they came in and maybe it's lacking regional, but they said, hey, instead of that, we're going to take and throw $10 million at an amphitheater at Patriot Park or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where you'd say, okay, there's some value for what that would create. And I use the amphitheater as an example.
It's a regional benefit.
Yeah, so
But
those were things.
if we do that, they need to make sure they still meet Title 19 within their own development.
Yes.
Like, this can't be, because it's 500 acres.
Right.
Because they have to still meet the open space requirements, yeah.
So again, these were just some illustrative
And not buy it all the way.
of things that we could consider, and if you're okay, we'll draft the policy to kind of include these types of regional benefits.
Sorry, real quick, Stephen's comment sparked a thought. We need to say, there needs to be a limit to how much they can pay a fee in lieu of. Because you don't want to be able, because it might be more value for them to just build all houses and not have any open space, and then just be able to offset all. So there has to be a certain percentage, they still have to have open space.
They still have to be code, and under PIT, they still have to meet that.
We're on the same health insurance plan, and it's terrible. I think he needs to take care of himself.
This was really all that I had left. Take a look at the policies, and if you have more questions or concerns, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we'll craft this as we talked about.
But I think some of those point systems like we've used on other parks could be used, we're contributing to Patriot Park, which holds and splash days, because we're building it out to move it. As the city grows, Patriot Park's going to fail. Or not Patriot Park, Neptune Park's going to fail. We've got to move to Patriot. It's already really high. So if you add to Guaya with 6,900 homes, or,
Yeah.
we've got to build.
I think that's all I have. Brian, did you have anything else significantly that we may have missed?
No, just,
Sorry, this shut off on us.
the idea that we're still talking about a policy and that you're going to have, that every application is going to be different. And so when you get into open space versus homes and density and all that, all of that can be handled in your application stuff. You know, unless you said, we are not doing single-family homes, or we're not doing X, Y, or Z. But otherwise, you're just setting these parameters, and anybody within those parameters would have their day in court with the council to kind of discuss the project and what the merits and benefits are for each one.
Yeah, so this has to be the legislative decision.
Brian, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Happy to be here. I apologize for you might think I was a plant to get us out of the meeting a little earlier than maybe we would have otherwise, but.
Well, we maybe needed that, so that was good.
We're on a very high deductible plan. Take care of yourself.
That's right.
I'm disappointed you didn't bring the trail mix, that's all.
You know, my office is in Provo. I live in Mapleton, and so unless I've been up in Salt Lake very recently, I don't have the bridge mix.
Can I go get one off the 18th floor for
Yes, you
myself
can.
tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. I'll tell
Insulin
Jonathan you
is-
said okay.
Is necessary.
Yeah, so.
By all means, I think, are we done with that?
we're good.
Brian, Ron, we do have need for a closed session, and it will be a very brief one. So if we wanted to just quickly close, invite everyone to step out for one quick minute, then we can jump back in.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Oh, so made.
Seconded.
First from Wilden, second from McComber, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.